everybody, and welcome to part 18. God, how long is that? Part 18 of Why We Love Doctor Who as we enter into the Peter Capaldi era. This will be fun. And as always, I'm joined by John the White, Burrenjaw, and Golden Age Geek. Hello, gentlemen, and how are we today? Anyone? Hello.
Yes, I'm great, except I'm having to talk about what's not my favourite series, so I'll try and muster some love for it, but this is going to be a very, very difficult series to like.
I think we're all going to find it a little bit challenging. So, how are you, Golden Age Geek?
Doing very well. As we've said, there are some good episodes in it, so it's not total oblivion. So there is some enjoyment to be had. But if we're being honest, that there is a lot of faults.
Yes, there are a few problems. Oh, and by the way, before we go any further, congratulations on breaking 1,000 subs.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, well, you deserve it, mate. You've done an absolutely fantastic set of videos. You deserve everything you're getting. Well done, mate. So, John, how are you today? John? Hello, John?
Hello?
No, your mic's gone, mate.
Hello?
Hello?
Bloody microphone. Aha!
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, hello,
mate. I knew things were not working. But no, congratulations on 1,000 subs, Golden Age Geek. That's fantastic. Right, I'm all right now, am I? Good.
Yes,
Where were we?
You're all
I was just going to say, Series 8, well, this just reminds me, that all the joys of fandom come wrapped between the slices of the sandwich of suck. But for every Earth shock,
absolutely,
there is a time flight. And this is one of those.
Yes, indeed.
I don't think it's fair to compare Time Flight to this year, because Time Flight is bad, but this year, for what it did to the show, catastrophic.
Obviously, that's generous. Time Flight has Concord in it. Time Flight wins.
Yeah, exactly.
We went through this when we did the Peter Davison era.
Exactly. Got Concord in it. That's enough.
Sorry.
Oh, well, look, here we are. We've had the time of the Doctor. Matt Smith has obliterated entire Dalek fleets with his excess regeneration energy. And then suddenly he discovered that he's suddenly lots older with grey hair and new kidneys. But do you know how to fly this thing?
Indeed.
To which the only answer is to take a deep breath and plunge in to Doctor Who Series 8.
Oh, he's done it again. He's worked it. That's awesome. Well done, sir. Well said. Fantastically.
Susie, I rewatched Deep Breath this week. It didn't help much.
Not surprised.
Because I've always struggled with this story. It's well, let's start off with a sort of recap of it. You've got the Paternoster gang. We're in Victorian London, and suddenly there's this very giant Tyrannosaurus type dinosaur has appeared on the banks of the Thames, which promptly coughs out a very gunky blue box, which lands on the beach and turns out, of course, to be the TARDIS, from which emerges firstly a very, very dishevelled looking. No, actually, no, it's not right around. From which emerges as Strax knocks on the door. The very interrogatory eyebrowed face of Peter Capaldi in his first scene as the Doctor, where he's full of regeneration confusion before he conks out on the beach. And Madame Vastra gives the police some lanterns to encircle the dinosaur with to incline it to remain within, and they scoop the Doctor back to their place, where they promptly dress him for bed because he needs a good rest. And some various anarchic scenes occur as the Doctor fails to understand why you would want an entire room just for sleeping in, and then wipes all over the walls and stuff. But then he hears the call for duty. He drives out the window and he goes to talk to the dinosaur because he feels guilty about dragging the dinosaur forward in time just by virtue of it eating the TARDIS. And he promises that he will get the dinosaur home. I will get you home, the Doctor proclaims, gesticulating in his nightgown across the streets of London, at which point the dinosaur promptly bursts into flames and incinerates. No, don't do that! So this then becomes a murder investigation. And the Doctor is on the case. And if they want to see him again, the Paternoster gang are going to have to get on the case too. Which I think means just go crazy in London, basically, which is probably what the Doctor does. And he intimidates, with his Scottishness, a homeless man into giving him his very smelly clothes. And then him and Clara together both discover the same clue to meet at a restaurant. Yes. And when they meet at said restaurant, they realise that they're the only people alive in it and everybody else is automatons, and that this is the people who need the bits of dinosaur. To which they then get dragged down into the underground lair. And in a challenging scene for Doctor Who fans, the Doctor appears to completely abandon Clara. And she's desperately trying not to breathe to not attract the robot's attention. And she's about to pass out with the exertion of trying not to let them know where she is so that they kill them. And only then does the Doctor emerge and save the day. And he has a clash with the chief bot's job android. And it all ends up in a hot air balloon with the guy plummeting to his death onto a bunch of stakes. At least that's almost the end, except he suddenly appears in a kind of paradise, and there's a very prim Victorian-looking lady offering him a cup of tea. Now it's the end.
Yes.
Okay. So that's Deep Breath.
Yeah. In a nutshell.
Give me some feelings about it, people. Who wants to start off?
Who wants to have a shot at this first? Oh, let me think. Golden Age Geek, let's go for you first.
As soon as you mentioned that he wasn't too fond of this episode, I knew that some of the episodes in this series we're going to have really different opinions about. Because I would say, because I think, in my opinion, I think that this is the second best opener of New Who, just behind the 11th Hour. I very much love this episode. I really love it. And what I will say is that this episode does encapsulate the theme of this season, which is sort of a less glamorized tone, and it's more sort of realistic, because this series really puts a focus on the character of the Doctor and what lengths he will go to, and that sort of thing. But again, I love the historical setting. I think it looks absolutely beautiful.
Oh yeah,
so I like that aspect of it.
I've got to quickly respond here, which is to say that Deep Breath is definitely better than The Woman Who Fell to Earth.
Oh yeah.
But I can't see it. I can't see a universe in which it's better than Rose.
I think maybe.
I can't see how the top two aren't either Rose or the 11th Hour. But for almost all Doctor Who, I may be completely wrong, but let me know if people put Deep Breath as highly praised as you just have. But I can't put it anywhere else but third place to me. If someone said to me, introduce a Doctor, show them Rose or Deep Breath, introduce a Doctor, show them 11th Hour or Deep Breath, it's not going to be Deep Breath. That's just, I don't get that. Okay, back to you.
I would say that they are very different episodes. Like, Deep Breath isn't something that I would introduce a newcomer to Who. I would definitely say go back to, well, I mean, if they're more of a younger audience member than Rose, but, even more perfect would be to just watch Classic as well. But I wouldn't say that this is one which introduces New Who by any means. It is a very different type of episode. But yeah, I love the historical setting. The Paternoster gang aren't bad in this episode. I mean, I've never thought they're the greatest of characters, but they aren't too bad. I thought the humor with Strax kind of worked in some places. Like when he throws the newspaper up at her, that's it's just a little funny, weird thing, but I like it. I love the restaurant scene where they go in there and we see the Doctor. Actually, no, scrap that. I just remember something. But yeah, we see the Doctor sussing out what's going on in the restaurant, and when they all stand up, that is very creepy. I remember when I first watched this, I was kind of a bit freaked out by it. So I like that aspect of it. The villains in this episode are actually the clockwork droids from The Girl in the Fireplace. So I mean, they make a little return here because he pulls out the little cartridge.
I'm going to be talking about that shortly.
No, carry on. It's all getting exciting.
I think the main point of discussion that people in fandom usually have about this episode is always the did he push him or did he fall argument, and I think that may be something that splits fandom a lot because of the idea of what the Doctor is in their head. They kind of lean to, he did push him or he didn't push him, that sort of thing. But I think that is the main point which kind of splits fandom, because the Doctor is very much portrayed as a very darker character in this series. And this series is very dark in it. As I say, it isn't glamorized or, isn't sugar-coated or anything. So when I rewatched this series, I actually found it to be a lot better than the first time I watched it, because I understood what they were doing more so. Because as I say, when I was much younger and I watched this for the first time back in 2014, I was kind of bored. I didn't really get it because I just wanted to see the fun aliens and all the the fun action. And to be fair, we do actually see some of that when Peter Capaldi's Doctor is on the horse and he's rushing about. I feel like Moffat was trying to reassure the audience that even though the Doctor is being played by a much older actor now, it is still the Doctor. He's still going to be this sort of, a very different type of hero, but still sort of running about, doing his thing. So I just love this episode. I can't really find much faults with them, but you said, John, that you have something to say about this episode. So I'd love to hear.
I think I'm leaving it open to get Peter and George for you first, perhaps, but I can come in now because we can see by the comments. But people are got strong range of views about Deep Breath.
Yep.
There's definitely some very effective scenes in it. This is what we're going to have to say for every single Capaldi episode. It's got great stuff in it because it's got Capaldi in it, and there's no doubt that the way he hits some of the scenes in this, his acting is as fantastic here as it is ever is. Although as I said last week, I actually found the regeneration scene for Capaldi somewhat muted. I took to his acting immediately. When I saw Deep Breath, and there's some great dialogue and there's some tense moments. Absolutely there are. But I think one of the biggest issues I have with it is the use of the Madame de Pompadour clockwork droids.
Yeah.
Because that made sense in the context of, okay, it's 3,000 years in the future or something. There's a spaceship which has malfunctioned. And the robots on that spaceship think they need organic bits from the past because of the name of the spaceship. So in one time period, they open a time portal and then access lots of different times. But from their point of view, it's all contiguous. All their visits to different time zones could have taken place over just a few hours.
Yeah.
So all their collecting of parts was very focused, very frenzied, very contained. Imperative. Now, when you then take that and say, here's the same kind of robots, but somehow got scattered throughout time and have been existing for aeons, and they're still terminally thick and deluded.
True.
I don't buy it.
No.
So my mind rejected them because straight away I thought that's really boring and lazy and doesn't make sense. And undermined the clockwork robots in their first appearance. Now, you could look at them and say, "Hey, they're creepy." You just think, I think they do achieve a certain fright value in the individual scenes, but their use in the story, bringing them back, just seems like don't really want to have to work out a proper villain because there's too much else the script is trying to work out. So I marked the story down for the main protagonist. And then in terms of those scenes of Capaldi, they are quite disjointed. And I like unsettling the audience with the Doctor. I like the Doctor to be darker and less approachable. I wasn't sure the audience would buy it, but I was personally fine with that. But I wasn't fine with the overall the overall feel of the introduction to Capaldi. I felt like this. He really hadn't been given enough time to really show what his Doctor was. But I feel that came next week, so we'll get to that when we come there. But I think that's principally the reuse of the clockwork androids, and I do know that that's what they are. I just didn't like it at all, and I liked it even less when Moffat used the same split face villain for 2 Christmas specials running. It's so unmemorable. I can't even remember their names. I'll have to look it up.
Split villain.
The faces split open. They were in both Doctor Mysterio and River Song Story.
Oh God, shows you. I honestly can't remember anything about either of those.
So Moffat had a habit of doing that, especially in this. Once we got into this era of his writing, there are distinct signs of laziness.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I mean that is a key issue I have with Deep Breath, as well as. Paternoster Gang. I think they'd run their course by this point, and I think that's reflective of the fact this was their last appearance.
Indeed, it was.
Just I agree with Laura. Just for my thoughts on. Sorry, you finished, John?
Yeah. I mean, that's enough to go on with.
Oh no, that's okay. I just don't want to interrupt, But yeah, I'll just say about this story. Well, I guess I fall somewhere between you and Golden Age Geek, and that. This is certainly not, the worst story of this season. Granted, that's not saying much, but it's, it's a decent enough episode in places. I agree with Golden Age Geek that I like the setting, and unlike you guys, I'm a big fan of the Paternoster Gang. I think they're a really good concept, and yeah, I'm always open for them to come back.
Oh, I'm not saying they weren't fun. I think the chances of them coming back now are distinct.
Oh no, of course not. But to us, I wouldn't want them back now because it's shit now anyway. But anyway,
yeah.
But like as I was saying, having said that, I'm not so keen on how they're used in this one. I think parts of it are a bit cringy. Like it's a bit, like the bit where Vastra's painting Jenny. To be honest, that just seems like Stephen Moffat writing with his hand down his trousers a bit. And then there's also, the bit where it's like, what is it? Vastra and Jenny have a 5-minute conversation about flirting. And she goes on.
I really don't want the image of Stephen Moffat writing with his hand down his trousers. Oh my word.
Sorry about that.
Oh dear. But we all know what you mean.
Also, I agree with you guys. The plot is very lazy. But see, the thing is, I'm a bit torn about it because in some ways it is really good. Look, there's a really creepy atmosphere. I like the idea of the monster under the sewers in Victorian London. Even though it's been done, it's always a good trope. But yeah, it should have been another. It should have been another villain than just the rehash, and also the T-Rex. By speaking, obviously, I mean you guys know how much I love dinosaurs.
Really?
The totally ridiculous size.
Oh, I know, what the hell? And that could have been. Actually, that could have been a good idea.
I could think the only reason the dinosaur ended up that size was the script required the TARDIS to be spat out of its mouth.
But I was even you guys still didn't need to make it that size, and that thing is a bit size.
Thankful. The other exit would have been worse.
Oh God, would have been funnier though.
Would have been it was a Diplodocus or something,
Red Dwarf that goes up.
Came out the other end.
But here's the thing. I often thought you could come up with a reason for the dinosaur was so big. Like maybe in the Silurians era, they were under just as much attack from aliens, so they created these giant mutant dinosaurs to fight off alien invasions. Like that could have been a good explanation, but Stephen Moffat clearly didn't even put that much thought into it. Like, so it's just a complete novelty. It's crap, and it looks great. I'll give them that. It's absolutely spectacular looking, but Yeah, it was a total waste.
Comments for Dinosaur was sadly just trailer bait. I mean,
it
had no active role in the plot.
Sadako is 100% right with that. Also, sorry, another thing that we haven't talked about this story that I think is probably one of the worst parts of it is the ending when Matt Smith shows up to phone to tell Clara to welcome the new guy. I thought that was terrible. Because Matt Smith, and as much as I love him, should not have done that because that was stepping on, Peter Capaldi's shoes, and it made it look like they didn't have any faith in Peter Capaldi. Like, just because he was old.
It suggested they were scared the audience would have trouble.
Which was terrible. You shouldn't do that.
But also, it shows there was a fear there that they felt they needed to reinforce the transition. To go, no, really, it is the Doctor. Look, that's the Doctor telling you it's the Doctor.
Yeah. Also, it actually probably made it a bit harder for people to change because they've been used to Matt Smith for 3 years. Then you get him back.
It was semi-painful to see him back. I agree.
Yeah, it was. It was like, back? And it wasn't great. It feels like the show we've watched again for 3 years for 2 minutes at the end, just when we're getting used to it being. So no, I will say I don't get why there would ever be any big deal about the Doctor pushing that guy.
But like, why am I modern fans? They've done that with Jodie's first episode. They had Capaldi turn up on a phone call 2 minutes from the end, just go, no, really, that is the Doctor.
God,
could you imagine?
God, that would have blown up on social media.
They did it to him. I mean, that's a very well-observed point.
I will say is that I also do not like the pairing of Peter Capaldi and Clara, and it gets off to a pretty terrible start in this one with them fighting like for no real reason. Her being so shallow that she's annoyed that he's not the young, fanciable one anymore.
And the Madame Vastra putting on her veil.
Oh, it's so cringy, that bit.
And then, when did you take your veil off? As soon as you stop seeing it. What? Just scrub it. Just 2 minutes of script wasted.
If there's anyone who could flirt with a mountain top, it would be me.
Absolutely pretentious piffle. Sorry.
Oh, it was.
That was bad.
Comparing the Doctor to a mountain, can I just say this is something I really fucking hate in you, where they have to make out that the Doctor is this god, he's the pivot of the universe, he's, it's so annoying, and so I'm sorry, there's a lot that does annoy me about this one, but overall, I think
it gives us a lot to sympathise with about why Capaldi's grumpy.
Yes.
These idiot micro brains comparing me to mountains and gods.
On the point of the veil scene, I do admit that is kind of cringy, but I can kind of see what they were doing with that scene, because you have Clara who's trying to talk to Vastra, and her veil is obviously hiding her face, and Clara will only speak to her once the veil is lifted. I think what the point of that scene is that even though the character, you can't see their face, and then with the Doctor having changed his face, it's still the same person under there, so you have to kind of look behind what you see on the outside. So I think that's what they were trying to get with that scene.
Sadako comments, Jenna Coleman does try to save it by playing it more as Clara being a stressed carer who's angry that she can't reach the Doctor anymore in his confused state, rather than just wanting Pretty Boy back. I mean, I think
I'd argue the way stops that from happening, because, that might be how Jenna may have imagined it, but the way it's written is so, overtly, I said, they have 5 minutes about where they talk about flirting. So, to me, I think that they botched Clara.
And it's also the upshot of it is that it's like a trauma, isn't it? She's shocked. She's in trauma. And when she's traumatized, she asks this question, how do we change it back? But that she already knows you can't change back. It's her shock speaking. But that they interrogate her and make her stand up for personality. I mean, what kind of harassment of the traumatized is this supposed to be? I didn't get the whole scene. I really felt it was misplaced, and I didn't think it made any valuable point. I just felt it was trying to be mysterious for the sake of it.
And Moffat is
and
kind of
ultimately it was just to go with the Doctors with God, the Doctors with Mountain, and don't we like flirting, which was is that quality writing? I don't really think
No
so.
shit.
I don't really think so. So look, having had comments from me and Burrinjaw Golden Edge King, I come in with a lot of strong support for this story. Are you kind of perhaps are you looking at it now and maybe there are some flaws I hadn't accounted for, or do you still stand by strongly supporting the story?
Well, I obviously don't, totally disagree with your points. I think, but I don't know. I still think that in my head, some of the scenes I look at and interpret differently. So it's not like
is
you're
it a
wrong or
nostalgia thing? Is it how much you were enjoying being a fan at this time, coming off the 50th, start of the new Doctor's era? Is that all part of how you feel about it?
No, I can still watch it back and find, all those points that I brought up, and I still think that they apply. But yeah, as I say, it's not a case of I think you're wrong or anything like that. It's just I interpret some of the scenes very differently. So I think I just get something out of it that's a bit different.
I know Gobby's on a bit of a backseat today, but I'd still like to get Gobby's view. Are you there, Gobby?
Yes, I'm still here. I've been listening to this. It's been fascinating.
What's your summing up of our conversation about deep breath? And then we should go for some scores, I think.
I'll tell you what.
We've got a lot to do.
We got a lot to do. It's very interesting. It is a lot of it in this particular. It can be literally down to personal interpretation of what you see the scene as. I personally, I kind of enjoyed this. I did really like the restaurant scene. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Love the Victorian setting. As you know, I'm like Golden Age Geek. I love my historic settings. It was enjoyable, shall I say? I can see from both sides where both or all of you are coming from, and I agree with some and I disagree with others, and then I can kind of see to the point. The thing is with this particular series, and as we go on, these things a lot of these episodes are very divisive with the fandom, and that's why it's going to be a challenge. But it's fascinating to hear how we're panning out. It's
comment from Sadako here. I might rate it as a 7 as a standalone if I could just have it end with Clara leaving and no Missy.
I'm with them on the no Missy part.
It must be -1 at least on both of those points, but you can't be rating it more than a 5 at the moment. Let's do ratings. I'm going to go straight down the middle, flat C.
Well, I will actually go for a B-. As I said, I did quite like it, so I'll go for a B-. Go on then,
B-.
B-. Is it right? That's fine. And Golden Age Geek?
A+.
I knew that was coming.
that must balance out as to B- overall. Sure. That's great. That's
first
great.
episode and he's already causing ructions. I love it.
Well, no, but this is what good fandom discussion is all about, and I expect we're going to see even more of it as we peer deeply into the Dalek.
Oh, he's done it again. Oh, Dalek episode. Interesting. Ooh, so shall we open with Burrinjaw to have a little go at this one?
If you like,
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Glad. This one is. This is probably one of the best Peter Capaldi. It is one of the best Peter Capaldi ones. Everything to us, there's not really anything I can fault with it. Other than the Daddy Pink bit, maybe goes on a bit too long. But other than that, this is a great story in lots of ways. It's a really cool and interesting new idea to go inside the Dalek and actually see how the machine works.
Sorry, very briefly, Sadako has just said, I must point out we're at half an hour in already. This might be another we split in half. Well, if we did Series 8 plus the Christmas special, it's 13 episodes.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to do it, boys.
No.
Because we're coming to the closer to the end.
Yes.
Metaphorically, in many ways.
Yes.
And we've decided not to rush it.
No. We'll just go where we go.
we're talking until 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or unless we like 10 to 8 and we don't think there's enough time to do another one, you know. But basically we're aiming to keep talking to 8 o'clock, and we will just keep going through the era at this point, and give each story its due. Because for one thing, Capaldi is worth is his fair due.
And also remember that these ones are, as I just said, these episodes are quite divisive, so it's going to be interesting.
That's also an interesting point. They are quite divisive. And another thing is, from the end of Capaldi's era, Doctor Who has been completely divisive.
Oh God, yeah.
But in no way talking about Capaldi. We've been talking about the shit that was in front of us at the time.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a need to have a more studied discussion of Capaldi's episode.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's long overdue.
I think, I hope that answers Tadako's question, but we aren't fussed about getting to the end of series 8 tonight. We'll get where we should get to. Back to you, Berendraw.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, before I carry on with this, I also just want to say I'm completely with you, John, that I think the Peter Capaldi era has not been analysed and picked apart the way it should be, because a lot of its fans can be quite bullying. They can be not just with the SJW stuff, but trying to make out that this is the thinking man's era and everything like that on Reddit and so on. So yeah, I think that, and it's annoying because actually the Peter Capaldi era is what completely set the stage for all the shit that happened in Jodie's time.
It's semi the thinking man's era, semi the wanking writer's era. I mean,
Oh God, can I use that, please? The wanking writers era. That sums up so fucking perfectly.
That's the sound bite to the episode right there.
It fucking is.
Right there. That's it.
But anyway, so just carrying on about one of the few episodes I do like.
We're going into the Dalek,
yeah. I think, as I said, it's a really cool idea to show the inner workings of the Dalek, and I think it takes us into the kind of psychology of them in a lot more interesting a way, because, a lot of people often make out you can't do anything interesting with the Daleks because they're just one note, but that's not true at all. I think the fact that they represent, such a very real kind of hatred that we know exists, hating people because they're different and being afraid of people that are different. I think this one really goes into that quite well, and actually does stick to the original idea from Genesis that they're incapable of understanding anything beyond their limited sphere, which is why I love the twist at the end that Rusty, from his perspective, he could only see hatred as beautiful. He couldn't appreciate the beauty of a star or anything like that. So yeah, I think this one really, it was a really interesting new look at the Daleks, and also it did make them really threatening, not just for having one of them be dangerous, which is kind of, you can do that with any monster, but also showing you how there's this war against them. And again, I like that we actually see how there's, they're affecting the whole universe at large, because in New Who, we'd only really seen them invade the Earth, whereas here you do get the feeling they're an intergalactic threat with, involving people from different planets and so on, and they're all now huddled together and they're being pushed to their limit. And see, to be honest, I actually think that this story should have actually began a story arc with the Daleks and the Peter Capaldi era. Ironically, for all of it overused, I think they should have been the main foes of his era. I think we should have explored this war in greater detail. And personally, I think Journey Blue, who is really, really good in this, I really like that actress, I think she should have been the companion. I think she'd have been really good. Her and Osgood, actually, together, I think would have been really, really good companions to put together. And personally, that's what I'd have had rather than Clara. And also, finally, Rusty, I think, could have shown up again, properly. I'd love to have seen one where he goes up against Dalek X, who was a character from the books that enjoys torturing his victims. That would have been quite. That would have been quite a cool episode, of Dalek on Dalek violence.
You've been accused of being in love.
Oh yeah, no, that is. Of course I am. Yeah, of course I am.
He is. There's no getting away from it. Right,
he is.
Deal with it.
Oh yeah. I am. Yeah, totally. But he's only just got that. He's known me for 10 years.
I think
What's wrong with you,
what you've all
Sacco?
got, yeah.
You just not listen when I speak. Is that it? You're saying this is the first time. Like, hang on a minute. But yeah, I've said all I need. I do actually have reasons for thinking Journey and Osgood would be good together, but I'll save those for when we talk about Death in Heaven.
Let's talk about the brief run over of the script because we are taking our time to do it. So we've got Far Future. I love Far Future stories. And this one has got a wonderful opening. I mean, it really is $1 million opening of this one ship being chased down by this hulking, humming, blasting Dalek saucer, and it is exciting. It is exciting, and it's accompanied by a brilliant rescue by a doctor who just wants to be thanked properly.
Yeah.
Right, but okay, you got a problem, and it's Daleks. I'll get involved. So he then pops back to Cold Hall School to pick up Clara, who's trying to take out Danny Pink for a drink. So this is also an introduction to Danny Pink.
Don't like him.
Then we travel back to the spaceship Aristotle, which is hiding out from the main Dalek fleet in an asteroid field. And because the issue is they've got a broken Dalek. And this broken Dalek seems to want to destroy other Daleks. And they want to know what's going on and if they could fix him and turn him into an ally to fight for them. But the only way to find out is to literally get into the works by use of miniaturization. So, yes, it was first done in, what's the damn film called? Oh,
Fantastic Voyage.
Fantastic Voyage.
Fantastic
What
Voyage,
a film.
yeah.
What a film.
And the 80s sequel was also very good. The 80s remake was also very good, Bob.
Yes.
So it's a classic sci-fi concept, but it's done very well here. It's done with reverence. It's done with concern to make it look real. And everything about the interior of the Dalek, once they move into it, it looks real. But the upshot of it is that old Rusty's busted, but if you fix him, he goes back to being how he was.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is to fix him so he doesn't die, but make him have the revelation that twisted his mind against the Daleks in the first place. Make him have that revelation again. So the story ends with the Doctor right in the centre of the Dalek machine, in the life support area itself, staring what he now nicknamed Rusty right in his eye, with the Dalek. I mean, talk about mountains and gods. In this, the Dalek is literally towering over the Doctor like a mountain of Dalek flesh. Somewhat disturbing. But the Doctor incites him to have the vision again, and in response, Rusty sees that the Daleks are wrong and must be destroyed. So he goes on the warpath. And I tell you what, when Rusty's gander's up, watch out, because he's a rapid fire kind of Dalek. Bam, 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 bam. He takes an entire squad of Daleks. Yeah, and then he's legging it to go and plot the downfall of the Dalek race. See you later. Rusty, job done. Go home. No journey. You can't come. I don't like soldiers. So that's the episode.
It is.
Let's get Golden Age Geeks feedback.
Yes.
This episode is one that I do have to watch back in order to sort of understand what's particularly good about it, because the initial setting for this episode doesn't really do much for me. It doesn't really stick in my mind. I would say most of the episode does just fly over me. I just don't really remember it. But there are the key moments, like when the Doctor and Rusty have a sort of symbiotic link, and Rusty realizes that the Doctor has an insane hatred for the Daleks. And after he goes on his rampage and at the end of the episode and kills all the Daleks, he says to the Doctor that you would be a good Dalek, because he saw into the Doctor's soul and just saw hatred. So again, it's not painting the Doctor as this sort of traditional hero who can do no wrong. If this series and this episode as well just go into the Doctor's morality, what he's willing to do, how he isn't always perfect. And we do see that in a lot of the episodes this season, because of course we get the introduction to the theme of am I a good man? And that's the question that is asked a lot And something that I think, what episode was it? I think it will be The Caretaker is an episode that I can come on back to this point that I'm about to make, but we do get to see Danny Pink and some of what he's been through. And I don't know, I have a feeling that we're going to disagree on a lot of things when we get to that episode about Danny Pink. But yeah, I'll just bring up the fact that we do get introduced to this character, and for all of his faults, I do understand what Moffat was trying to do, and I do appreciate the character, even though the actor is a bit of a wet lettuce. But yeah.
Wet lettuce.
Certainly is.
Yeah, one way of describing him.
Number one is, I don't think I'd call, what was his name? Oh, damn it. I don't think I'd call him a wet lettuce to his face. Just a piece of advice. I'm not sure I agree with you on that. But it's Samuel Anderson, of course.
Yeah.
So, I think he's a very personable actor. I like his portrayal a lot, actually. I mean, if being as we're raising Danny Pink, I have no problem with Danny Pink. I think Samuel was hamstrung by the fact that his character wasn't allowed to want to explore time and space.
Yeah, I agree. It was a boring soap character. It's not necessarily the actor's fault.
But what could Samuel do with that? But where he was given chances to get his teeth into it a bit more, like when he played Orson Pink in Listen, which will also obviously be coming up to hopefully tonight. That they played that character very differently because he was able to. So I think a little bit badly served by the scripts, including the season finale scripts. But the concept of the character as someone who actually wanted to be a break on Clara and sort of ground her back on Earth, ground her back on reality, who was also very worried about the risks that she was taking, which would later turn out to be quite justified, would they not?
Indeed.
So I've always respected the Danny Pink character. I've never had a problem with him, but then I wasn't. Again, this wasn't a period of time where I was active in fandom discussions. I was watching this myself and forming my own opinions about the episodes. So, I know that there's all sorts of discussions about things, but I've never been somebody who was doing Danny Pink down. I enjoyed the character.
Fair enough.
Right. So let's try and come back to this episode. Where did we get to? Have I interrupted your flow, Golden Age Geek? Have you got more to come?
No, that's about it.
Right, okay. So, my thoughts on this story, I felt much more satisfied with it as a Dalek story than Asylum of the Daleks the previous year. Even though we've actually rated Asylum of the Daleks really high.
We did, yep.
I was emotionally much more satisfied with this story.
Agreed.
I especially liked the attention to detail and the care of actually making the interior of a Dalek make sense and also be quite consistent with Dalek cutaway illustrations from the 1970s. There was a book about Destiny of the Daleks. It came out at the end of the 70s, and
Terry Nation's Dalek book. I think
correct.
Yes.
I
got an old
so
second copy of that.
What I'm talking about with the internal illustration.
Yes, I did.
And Into the Dalek matched that really closely. So I felt that.
Sorry,
whereas when the Daleks were later shown as able to open up and fit a Clara inside, that was some, yeah. But then they did that in the Daleks, so Ian cumbered inside one. So Dalek design has obviously differed over the years. But I was full of respect for this episode.
So one thing
on the technical aspects, and like I said, I felt the opening was a real blinder. I surprised me having had more comments about it. Really, I felt it was one of the most exciting intros that any episode had.
Well, so one last thing I'd like to say about this episode, actually, and Sadako's actually just kind of commented on it there, is that I agree this is how the direction the show should have gone in, and that each doctor, as we know, kind of has to have like a particular style to their era in a way, like Sylvester McCoy's got the supernatural theme, Tom Baker had the gothic theme.
Well, as the producers had their own style in classics.
Yeah, sort of. And obviously,
we
Matt
know
Smith.
the difference. We know the difference between a Hinchcliffe and a Williams episode, and it's transparent what the difference is.
Yeah, I agree, but that's what I'm saying. Like Matt Smith obviously had that with the fairy tale stuff, and with Peter, I think given they wanted his Doctor to be at least at first more of a kind of harsh professor that he didn't always feel safe with, I think it would have been good if they'd done more stories like this that were, you know, in outer space, that were actually on other planets, that dealt with like less on Earth, more like now we're going into the unknown and we don't know what we're going to find out there. And it's going to be genuinely scary stuff like this story. So I think this should have been the template for how it went.
The idea of making the Doctor less approachable is also to try to go back to the roots of the character.
Exactly, because I'd like to see that.
But Hartnell's Doctor, overwhelmingly, was either in the far future or the distant past. He spent very little time in the present day.
Exactly, or even like if you're going to do it, I think, as I said, like William Hartnell, early Tom Baker era should have been template for Capaldi, which this story seems to get. Like as I said, now he's a bit more alien, so he's going to be less tied to Earth, and he's going to be so desperate to see and explore things that actually you're quite scared. Like he's so reckless, you're not sure if you're going to be safe, and you're out in the unknown, so it's a really scary situation. And that's where, as I said, I think this story gets that. But sadly, within 2 episodes, we're right back into Clara's school. We're right back into the RTD era, soap opera, Invasion Earth stuff. And it's just a shame. I think this represents, you know, how the Capaldi era should have gone. Again, with Journey Blue as the companion rather than Clara.
Well,
Fair enough.
I mean, I think you've got also in this episode, you've got the Doctor being somewhat mercenary, haven't you? Because you've got the soldier who is stupid enough to shoot at the Dalek defense globe. And then basically the Doctor says, go stand over there, quick everyone back here. You know, he gets killed. He says, but you said you saved him. Well, I saved all of us.
No, that was... To be fair, what
I liked what it was saying because it also counterpointed to this episode also the Doctor asking the question, am I a good man?
Yeah.
You know, and well, there you go. Is being a realist being good? Can being a realist sometimes mean doing things that are hard to justify without the full context?
I think he was being a bit compassionate, because there was nothing he could have done to save that guy. I mean, let's just assume, you know, like in the context of the story, that's obviously true. So rather than just tell the guy that and make his last minutes horrible, he at least gave him some hope so that he died, like, you know, not like in absolute fear and terror. And he did what he could to save the other people there. So yeah, I don't think he might have been callous about it, but that's the point. Underneath,
I think the whole issue is that we could talk about potential moral questionableness of that for hours. Well, hours. But you know, I mean, there's a lot. Each point you can have different points of view on it. And you can't really reconcile them. You have to choose. You know, so it was putting that questionable stuff in, which made sense against the. Am I a good man? Let's go for some scores.
Yes.
I'm going to start off very happy with this episode. I think it's one of the strongest episodes of the series. I've never really understood why it didn't light up fandom more than it did. I mean, I do get there's certain things like Time Prophet mentioned that he felt the circuits thing was silly because Davros had put that into his genes, but I felt that Davros did do that, but that doesn't mean the Daleks wouldn't use technology to reinforce obedience in the drones.
Was it not that the machine had just broken and the radiation was affecting its brain makeup? That's what made it good. It wasn't that the machine that made it evil had broken. It was just that now, like, it was getting infected with something, and then that's the point when they fixed that leak. Then its brain went back.
No such thing as a good Dalek.
Yeah,
that's true. No such thing as
without brain damage.
Exactly. There's a lot really, doesn't it?
There's a wiggle room in that statement.
Yeah, a little bit of wiggle room. Little bit of wiggle room.
All right, but I was heading towards a score. I'm going to
Yeah.
go for A. Not quite A plus, but A.
Fair enough. I'll actually give it a B plus. I quite enjoyed this story. I kind of like Danny Pink. I have actually met ex-soldiers or current serving soldiers that have his particular viewpoints on authority.
Interesting.
Yeah, there is. I mean, there is. And somebody mentioned earlier on that they were a bit surprised that Clara being quite dismissive of his military service, and I answered in the chat in experience. Quite a lot of people usually are very dismissive of your military service.
Let's ask that another way.
Yeah.
Does it make sense that Clara is attracted to
him? Well, good question. Because
it is actually, isn't it?
It is because
I can understand why his character is a good counterpoint for Clara against the Doctor, but would a woman like Clara actually fancy an ex-serviceman?
Yeah, and she knows him as a teacher, so
yeah, but she's also extremely dismissive of
exactly
of his military service, and which is and it's.
I think it would be quite hard for a veteran to choose to date somebody who had that view.
It's very.
It would be a strange choice to choose to date somebody who looked on what you've done for the country that way.
It's
not impossible. Nothing's impossible.
No, nothing's impossible. I mean, anything's possible, but
especially love.
Well, yeah, but it's speaking from experience, it's a very large part of your life, and there's it's even though you can only be in like a very short time, the stuff you get to do and see it very much makes you the person that you are.
I'm just wondering if there is a brackets quote unquote problem with Danny Pink's character. Is it actually Clara's problem?
Yeah,
we'll just leave that question floating.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a good one. But
where did I give you? I give it a. What was your score, Copy?
I said I'll give it a B plus.
B plus.
A B plus. Yeah, I marked it down.
Golden Age Geek.
On an objective level, I would probably give this a B or a B plus. But in terms of me as a viewer and the enjoyment, huddled in with the the good themes that it explores, I may have to just give it a C plus.
Fair enough. Enough. C plus. Interesting. What about Burrington?
I'd give it an A plus. Best of the season, really, and an all round great story. Shame should have been the template for a new Golden Age, but was a one off, really.
Wow, there we go. Another widely diverse range of views.
Yes, interesting, isn't it? Only 2 episodes in.
Well, I mean, yeah, we are indeed only 2 episodes in, and we've dealt with androids and we've dealt with Daleks, but now we've got to deal with robots, and they're in Sherwood Forest.
Of course. Oh dear. Didn't like this one at all. I hated this one. This was bad. I didn't enjoy it at all. I really didn't.
All right, let's start. Plot summary coming up. All right, the Doctor and Clara. Clara wants to meet somebody historical, so she chooses Robin Hood. So they go to Sherwood Forest, and Arrow lands in the TARDIS door just as the titles come up. And then the Doctor wins a duel against Robin Hood by knocking him into a river with his heroic spooning. And then we find out that the old Sheriff of Nottingham is having what else but an archery contest. So the Doctor and Robin get locked in this very weird kind of competitiveness. And the Doctor's kind of competing with Robin to stop the show's evil plans. But for some reason, there's robots and spaceships involved. And everyone just runs with it. And apparently by shooting an arrow into a spaceship, everything's all right again. And it was a very silly episode, really, at the end.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, yeah. I struggle.
Oh,
I
God.
struggle. Blah, 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 at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Mark Gatiss wrote this.
Yeah, dear. This was,
After Cold War, we get this.
Yes, exactly. After Cold War, we get this. No, nor me.
Let's go to Gold.
Oh, dear.
Oh, who's got the whistles?
Sorry, I just went from the Robin Hood team.
Let's go to Golden Age on this one first.
Yes,
You're in
let's do that.
Sherwood Forest. What do you see? Tell us all about it.
Well, the last two episodes were very much a darker, they're very much a darker tone. I can see how that may have disinterested some of the, younger viewers. So this one is kind of a return to form with a more sort of happy and jolly type episode. I would say the first half of this episode is a lot better than the second half. I think in the second half, it kind of just goes off the rails. I can kind of accept it for what it is in the first half, how they're, trying to have a bit of competitiveness between the Doctor and Robin Hood. And again, similarly to the Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, you have the Doctor who thinks that he knows everything. And then he's presented with someone who he thought was just a myth or a legend. And he's kind of, forced to acknowledge that he doesn't actually know everything, even though he may think that. When it gets to the second half of the episode, though, the Doctor and Robin Hood just keep on clashing when it's not very necessary for them to do so. It kind of feels like the humor is getting a bit forced here, so it doesn't work. There are situations where they're supposed to be working together, but they're just there trying to one-up each other. It doesn't really work that well. No. And I think some of the problems with a lot of these episodes is that they try to tie into the main sort of overall plot of Missy and the Nethersphere when they should just stay as their own self-contained stories. So you constantly get these mentions and flashbacks of Missy, wherever she is. And it does very much just take you out of it. I think if they just kept it as a very simple Robin Hood story instead of just, making everything a spaceship and is flying off to this dimension, and I think that is where it, falls apart. They should have just kept it a more simple story.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah,
I have received a challenge through the chat.
Yes, I did notice this.
Yes, Stacko Type Profit want me to sing the Robin Hood Weetabix advert song. I do not know why, but I'm game. Robin Hood, riding through the glen. Robin Hood, with his band of men. Feared by the bad, loved by the good. Robin Hood. Robin Hood could be in a fix. Robin Hood spies for Weetabix. Does he retreat back to Sherwood? 'Cause he should.
Oh God, this has took a weird turn.
I never knew there was a
get asked to do.
I always got that theme. I know that theme from the old original. What was it? I mean, I've never seen it, but I've heard about it. 50s TV show or something that was about Robin Hood. That was the theme.
Yes, that was the theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. To the original black and
white.
Not
the Weetabix part, obviously.
Oh, look, I get a standing ovation from
yes, there you go.
Oh, yeah,
there we go.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
I should think so too.
What about, you're not going to sing?
That's more fun than the damn episode.
Oh yeah.
You're not. Are you going to sing the Hooded Man theme?
Oh no, I'm not going to even try and hit those notes. Good grief. I'm not the castrated man.
Oh dear, man.
Oh dear. I'm going to get my tuppence in on this episode now. I think.
Crack on, mate.
Yeah. Look, I think its tone is so absurdly contrasting. But being as I'd actually taken the series seriously, and then I was hit by this on the third episode, I was immediately just like, what the fuck? Literally. Yes. What? Literally. WTAF? Because this was not what I was expecting sitting down for after a previous week. I thought maybe it might be a bit lighter, but this was ridiculous. And the competition between Capaldi's Doctor and Robin Hood was pathetic and juvenile and demeaning.
Agreed.
To character.
Yep.
Also, the spoons bit, okay, maybe it's a one-off gag, but it's a bit absurd that he's kind of fighting with a spoon all the way through the story. You know, what was that about? And then there's some sonic screwdriver waving and all the rest of it. And just the whole science fiction element to this plot was just so you could have it just had no integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's damning, but true. I think if a plot had no integrity, it was all just dressing for a laugh. I didn't mind the laugh, but it wasn't what Capaldi's Doctor needed his third story.
No,
my opinion. My opinion. They needed to continue with the arc that had been started. And I just think this was actually the wrong week for a light episode. Yeah. And this was just absurdly, ridiculously light. So I just didn't receive it well. Now I do know that this episode is popular with the ladies, because I have observed that quite a few of the female Doctor Who fans who express their views tend to enjoy this one because it's certainly fun. But it didn't give me anything that I appreciated as Doctor Who. And I really actually would struggle to find anything that I would take out of his story, even on Capaldi's performance as a benefit. I really didn't land with me at all. I didn't like it at the time, and I don't like it today.
Yep.
That's where I'm at. Now, who else needs to have a say in on this one?
Me.
Go for it, Burngel.
Well, in contrast to you guys, I actually quite liked this episode. I will say I'm a huge Robin Hood fanboy. In fact, I'm currently in the middle of watching Robin of Sherwood TV series, which is brilliant. You know, the one with Michael Praed and Jason Connery. The guy that plays the sheriff in that is brilliant. He would have made an absolutely amazing master, by the way. He really would. Like, he would have been perfect as that. But anyway, not to get sidetracked. Yeah, this story, I get a lot of the complaints. I don't think it's ever good when they make the Doctor into a kind of jealous, as Sadako said, teenage wannabe alpha male. But the only thing I will say, to be fair, they do that a lot in this series with him and Clara. I mean, there's the cringy crap with him and Danny.
The thing is with this, the Doctor was just behaving like a prick.
Yeah, well, it was. That's what I mean. Also, I will say one thing I don't get. Why does he find it impossible to believe that Robin Hood is a real guy? Robin Hood's not the most ridiculous. I mean, it's not like it's Peter Pan. Robin Hood's just a guy with an arrow. He could eat. Some people do think he was a real guy. I mean, maybe not that, he was called Robin Hood, but it was based on a real archer, a real thief who lived in Sherwood Forest, or whatever.
But I mean, well, the historical truth here is that lots of people lived in Sherwood Forest. This was because in the medieval age, under the feudal system, we didn't really have what we recognise as law, courts, and police like we do today.
No.
So the majority of the time, any local law would be administered at the village level by the head man. Now, under the common law, there is only two possible sentences. You could either be ordered to pay reparation, or you could be exiled. So let's say somebody accused you of causing their cow to die. You were told to replace the cow. If you couldn't replace the cow, you were kicked out of the village. Now, if you were exiled, you had no rights and anyone could kill you and it wasn't murder.
Lovely. Great.
So because of that, and of course, some villages had good headmen, some villages had very corrupt headmen, because of that, many people found themselves with nowhere to go and they couldn't go and live in any other village because if it got found out they were outlaws, they would be killed. Yep. So being an outlaw was no joke. But the idea that a folklore story would arise of an outlaw hero makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
What they were spurned and rejected and abused group of people, some of whom may well have been bastards and others would not have been. I mean, was there a real person called Robin Hood? Well, anyone could have the name Robin Hood. There could be many.
That's why I don't get why that was. I mean, I agree that that's a bit of a stupid part of the story, but I do still want to talk about some of the good bits in it.
Sure.
Like, for instance, I didn't think the sci-fi plot with the aliens, they just want to harness gold. That's actually what it is. That's why the arrow can affect the spaceship. It's because it absorbs gold as a kind of fuel, and so they fire that into the engine, and that's what makes it like accelerate too much and crash.
You go wear some gold and mine it rather than hang out in never mind.
Sorry?
Yeah. Yeah. I know you.
So what was that? You got a bit muffled.
Faces of the Earth, an alien could easily detect gold, right, and go and get that gold without bothering the humans whatsoever.
Well, no, the aliens they're like low. It's a ship that's crashed. They're low on resources, so they just need humans to mine it, and then get out. And that's why they're trapped where they are. Basically, the ship can't fly, so. That's it's an average story, but it does the purpose well. And I will say the highlight. I think the guy that does Robin Hood is really good. He's a really good cheesy, old-fashioned hero. And Ben Miller, I think, is brilliant as the sheriff. Ben Miller is a really good actor. I mean, I've loved him in everything he's done. Death in Paradise, Primeval. He was really good in that. And that sketch show he did with Alexander Armstrong, that's just absolutely hysterical. So yeah, I'm glad that they not only had him in it, but they actually gave him a really good part to play. Like I mean, it was a cheesy villain, but he really did it. I thought he did it brilliantly. I'd rank him like among the better Sheriff of Nottingham's, to be honest, even though he only had this one episode. So yeah, as a Robin Hood fanboy, I didn't think it was that bad a rendering of the legend, if you will. But I can see why. It's like maybe Robin Hood wasn't the best one to do for this era of Doctor Who, if you know what I mean. Like, you could have done it in the Hartnell era where it just would have been historical, but for this, I'm not sure. But either way, I think the story gets more than its fair share of hate, put it that way.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anything else on this one, Golden Age Key? No, right, that's simple enough. Well, let's do some scores then.
Yes.
Let's see. Oh gosh. Can I stop this being an E? Can I give it at least a D minus? I don't really want to. Should I be nice? It's like that. Should I be nice and just give it a little bit? Screw it. E.
It's not as bad as Kill the Moon, though, so you're going to have to give Kill the Moon a lower one.
We may disagree on that. E.
Really? Okay, fair enough.
Right. Well, I'll actually give it a D minus because when watching this, it was just an episode of my dick's bigger than your dick kind of thing, and
it was tedious. Yeah.
So there is a dick joke in it.
There is a dick joke. Yes,
he makes a joke about Errol Flynn's legendary big.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But no, a D minus. I didn't like this. No, it just wasn't. No, it just wasn't. There you go. How about you, Golden Age Geek?
I'll give it a C as well.
Right in the middle. Nice one. And Burrenjaw, let me guess.
A B plus.
Knew it was going to be higher.
He's really quite a high score for this one, but it's your scores, George. So
well,
carry on.
It's because it's Robin Hood, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah. If you like it, obviously this is an episode. If you do like it, you do actually like it.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? If you love it, you love it.
Yeah. You've definitely got an aspect of that to it. So.
Yeah, I like it. It's completely inoffensive. But the only episodes of Doctor Who I hate are ones that I feel completely fuck up the show, which is where we get to Death in Heaven is just oh god, I despise it. But I'll save it for that. That's
No.
The good thing about the range of views on this panel is that we let each other talk, but we're not afraid to listen.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, he's done it again. He's done it again.
Oh, I just got that. I'm so slow.
He's done it again. He's waxing lyrical today, getting these titles siphoned into the links. Brilliant. Yeah, we got to listen.
Well, first we were hiding, now we're listening.
Yes, indeed we are.
Because, in tone, if nothing else, this story seems like a sequel to the previous year's Hyde.
Yes.
At least I've always sort of taken it that way. And it's a very challenging and mysterious and somewhat ooky story from Moffat. And Clara is trying to date Danny Pink. It does not go well.
No.
Because Danny can tell that she's bullshitting him. And she won't be honest that she's bullshitting him, and he won't stand for it.
No.
That's basically what goes wrong with their date.
Yep.
And I like that. A real scene. And
Yeah.
Clara not getting things her way for once. Good for her.
Yes.
But when Clara returns from this date disaster, she finds the doctor's waiting for her. Because he's been obsessed by the idea of a creature with perfect camouflage. And there's a fear in the doctor's mind that he's trying to understand. And he wants to use Clara's to see if her childhood fears can help him understand his own. So he juices her up and connects her to the TARDIS's telepathic circuits. However, the Doctor, not being the best at noticing the subtleties of human psychology, hasn't really noticed Clara's mental state fuming about this date with Danny.
Yes.
So where the telepathic circuits take them is somewhere that involves both this creature and a young Rupert Pink before he changed his name to the rather more socially acceptable, in his view, Danny. I don't see what's wrong with being a Rupert, but then I haven't served in the armed forces.
Yeah, Ruperts are not good. Ruperts are not really not good. You don't want to be
Yeah,
a Rupert.
if there's anyone in chat who doesn't know, a Rupert is slang for an idiot bloody officer.
Which is nearly all of them. To be fair. Yeah, Rupert is not.
I not a comment I could make.
No, but Rupert is not a thing you want to be called.
If you want to get killed, stick with the Rupert. Get yourself stick with Rupert. Just don't do that, boys.
No.
So Rupert obviously wasn't the name that Danny liked when she got into the army. After failing to apologise to Danny on the date, Tara is when Danny's a young guy, and then this mysterious shape rises under the blanket. There is something in the room, and it's only by the Doctor, young Danny, and Clara staring fixedly out the window that they manage to encourage this creature to go away. What have they just encountered? And Clara then tries to do something, and she tries to apologise to Danny, but doesn't go well. But then she finds herself beckoned into the TARDIS by a guy who looks just like him, wearing the sort of orangey spacesuit. Where the Doctor then takes them both to the end of the universe, where this guy, whose name is Orson Pink, ship was stranded, and the Doctor's attempting to observe the last hiding place of the universe of these creatures. And something knocks on the door of the ship. Something wants the Doctor to come out. But Clara triggers the TARDIS to depart, where she finds herself in a very rustic barn. And there's a boy crying on the bed. And as the boy gets to sit up, she accidentally grabs his ankle. And could it be? And was it? And was that? Or was Clara herself actually the source of the Doctor's childhood memory? She comforts the young Doctor back to sleep. Orson's returned home, and Clara and Danny give this dating thing another go. End of episode.
Yeah.
Was it any good though?
No. I'm sorry. I think this episode is really proof that Moffat had lost it by this point, because it's what it is. It doesn't really have a plot. It's just a bunch of scenes cobbled together, and at the end, it completely contradicts itself. And it's also too fucking obsessed with the Doctor's past. I mean, I will say, right, that see the final section, that's Danny Pink's descendant at the very end of the universe where there's something outside. That scene is fantastic, and that should have been the entire story. Like they should have had it. There's a group of people trapped at the end of the universe, and there's something mysterious out there. If they'd made that the full story, it would have been an absolute classic. But everything before that, I think, is just rubbish. And I hate the ending scene where we see Clara convince the Doctor to control his fear or whatever. I mean, this was, again, I think you can sort of see the SJW influence, because before they turned the Doctor into a woman, I think they wanted to undermine the male Doctor for his female companion. And you see that the way Clara now has to become the hero of every Doctor Who story. Clara has to be the one to tell him what TARDIS to take. And in this one, Clara has to be the person that helped him overcome his fear and, become the hero he is. So, yeah, to me, it was just completely ruined by that awful ending. And also, it doesn't seem to make sense, because they say at the end there was no monster, but we fucking saw a monster when it came through, in the future. So it's like, what is there a monster? Isn't there a monster? To me, I'm sorry, I think it was just a
I wasn't sure if that part of there is no monster was part of trying to persuade the monster not to get them.
No, Clara says at the end that she doesn't think there was one. Like, so
yeah, Clara can think what she likes.
Well, I suppose, but the Doctor suddenly decides that there isn't one either, hence why he doesn't bother, looking for. I mean, either way, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but it's like, I think if they wanted it to be more ambiguous, they shouldn't have shown us something in the
blackboard in the opening of the story if there is no monster? Who wrote on the blackboard, listen?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not really up for debate, but then they say act like it is.
There clearly is some force at work. Whether it's the Doctor being mad and not knowing what he's writing on his own blackboard, and blanking out and then thinking something else has done it, you could try to explain it that way.
I know it is. It's. I'm sorry. I just think it's too much of a jumbled mess. It reads like a first draft, if I'm honest. Like, there's maybe a good story in there. It should have been tightened up, but I think this was Stephen Moffat. Ironically, I think he lost the ability to write a Doctor Who story after the 50th, because he'd written such weird ones that were about the Doctor's past in the 50th. I think he became too obsessed with that, and that's kind of what this one is. It's a holdover. It's like, I'll go back into the Doctor's past again. It's like, he shouldn't be doing that. He should just be moving forward with new adventures and new stories,
Yeah.
Excellent commentary. Golden Age Geek.
I, of course, am going to have a very contradicting opinion.
Do it.
Go for it.
I actually really love this episode. Now, I can understand how, some people are aggravated, and have been since the episode aired, at the fact that Moffat seems to, all of his female companions, he always has to make them the most important, the most influential people, and I don't like that aspect of it. And of course, what we saw, in years later, we can sort of trace this back to some of the roots of those problems. However, I do like the exploration of fear and human emotion in this episode. Doctor Who works best when it's, discovering and exploring the human condition, using sci-fi elements to explore that. I do love the ambiguity of the actual monster itself, because again, it's a bit like Deep Breath. There's a discussion to be had. Is there a monster or isn't there? Because we see when they go to see the young Danny Pink, there's something on the bed, but is it just one of the kids playing about, or is it actually the monster? We see that with when they go to the future, the Doctor has a very shocked face. Is it because there's nothing out there?
No.
Fear
sorry, Golden Age. That's what I was going to say. We actually, from what I can remember, we do see a monster in the future. That's where I think it falls down. We actually see like a big arm and a sort of grey body coming through the thing, which kind of, but then they try and make out it's ambiguous, but it's not, because we've seen something come through. Sorry, I just wanted to say that like we do actually see it.
I may have to rewatch those scenes. I don't remember that. I'm
pretty sure, but sorry, just carry on.
Okay, so yeah, as I say, I'll have to go and rewatch that. And maybe, my opinions will be vastly changed from it.
Take a memo. We obviously got to whip our panelists harder for next week.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't do my homework.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's all I got to say. Yeah. Chat has got some things to say.
Yes.
Matthew Pounders, subtle storytelling. Not everything has to be explained. I have a lot of sympathy with that view.
That's why I do like this episode, because it does leave a discussion to be had.
Yeah, agreed. I agree with
that. It did feel like it was a mini-sode that went on too long. So he's saying it was a bit like butter stretched too thin over the bread. Whereas Papalaz is bringing in the burn and says Moffat ran out of Lawrence Miles' ideas. He's not done yet.
Jesus,
Papalaz further comments. This episode is just a fanfic with no plot, no villain, and nothing you can take as a conclusion. It's just random scenes.
That's an interesting way.
I've got sympathy with both views here. I think that an episode needs an effective antagonist. There's many ways you could be an effective antagonist, but however you do it, it must be effective. I also think that things not being explained is good. I like that. I do like that. But it's a question of whether your goodwill as a viewer is being put on too much to ask you to go along with something that isn't justified or not. So the question really is the mystery and the lack of explanation, does it leave you enough at the end of the episode to make it a satisfying mystery episode? I would say the fact that we never returned to these mysterious creatures suggests it did not. Because if this episode had been received like a blink, perhaps this could have then become the new Weeping Angels. If these creatures that can't be seen, but creatures that can't be seen, creatures that can't be looked at, creatures you forget when you stop looking at them. Not for it.
See, I have a completely different take on it. I do personally.
Go for it, Gobby.
The reason there is or isn't a creature is because, as far as I see it, this is all about fear. And the famous line is, there is nothing more to fear than fear itself.
Indeed.
So therefore, there is a monster when you're scared of it, but there isn't when you're not scared of it, because you have to confront your fear. So that's how I see this. That the conversation if there is a monster, it's because the fear is the monster is fear itself, and that's what this episode's about. It's about confronting your fears. The only thing I didn't particularly like was the fact that Clara suddenly became again the one who saves the Doctor, which is like, really? But other than that, it starts to bite. That does. But that's what I see this one. This is all about fear. This is about confronting fear. And fear is a very insidious thing. It can play tricks on your mind. It can make you believe you saw something when you didn't. That thing
but
you saw.
It's kind of suggesting that there's a species out there whose perspective on existence is so disturbing that you don't even want to know about them.
Potentially,
it's that
a possibility.
I mean, one way of dealing with fear is to ignore it.
Yeah,
and that's part. But obviously, if this is about creatures that exist, then being ignored is their entire agenda and survival strategy. They want to be ignored. They do not want to be seen.
Exactly.
But that does not mean that they don't have their own plan.
Yeah, I mean that could.
And that's what potential of what could have been explored if it had gone somewhere further.
I mean, this is the whole monster under the bed or the monster in the cupboard scenario. Is it there? Or if it is there, does it really want to be seen, or does it want to be ignored? It's a fascinating. It can spend hours and days talking about the perception of fear and such things. But that's how I saw this particular episode.
No,
And
I think you're exactly right, Tommy. I think and it is
possible.
I mean, where this episode is most effective is in that moment. It really does make the small hairs on your back spring up.
Because let's be honest, we've all been in a situation where we think we something's there, or we get that feeling that something's not quite right, or and
well, let's put it this way, Gobby. Is there anybody in this chat prepared to type but they've never been afraid of something under the bed? Any of them?
I have a phobia of the dark, but plus I've never really had the bed phobia. I'm not trying to sound macho.
There's always got to be one, hasn't there, Gobby? It's got to be.
Yeah, but the thing is, the fear of the dark itself is because when it goes dark, you can't see. So there's a perception that there could be something in the dark.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
So it's it doesn't have to be under a bed. It's that perception that. Carry on, Golden Age. You jump in.
Well, I just want to say the whole thing about the fear under the bed. Like my bed always had like boxes under it, so nothing could possibly fit under my bed. So
in between the boxes.
So I never really had a fear like that.
Okay, but if you'd have gone to bed one night and your boxes had gone, would you?
Then yes, I would.
Yeah, well, no, who the fuck's had my boxes?
Yeah, someone's robbed me boxes. The thing is, though, fear is a lot of the time. Fear is the perception of danger, whether there's danger there or not. So it can be anything. It can happen at any time. So I think, as I said, in my personal opinion, I think the monster was actually fear itself.
Hold on, time profit here. John the White, I have got drawers under my bed, so I am not afraid. To which I say, that's disgusting. Put them in the washing machine, you vile creature.
Duh, disgusting.
Obviously, you scattered your old boxes around to keep the monsters away. I don't know if I approve of that. Electric fence is more reliable.
What is it? Is it indeed?
I never hit by the sofa. There was a wall there. Yeah. Papa Lads confesses to a fear of time travelers coming into his bedroom at night.
That's all possible.
Depends on the traveller. Through my argument, I'd say yes.
Completely real. A little bit of the truth of my existence. I love the dark. I feel safe in the dark.
Really? Huh?
And there's nothing I'm happier than to be in the dark with an audiobook on, and the rest of the world can go hang, and it's just me and the story floating in the darkness. I love it.
Yeah, see, whereas I've learned to embrace the dark. I like the dark. Lots of things are good, but when you've stood on stag duty at like 3 o'clock in the morning in the pitch black, it's amazing what tricks your mind can play upon you. It really is. But no, I love the dark. I absolutely love and adore it now. So, but fear's always there. Fear's always there. But that's what in any case, that's what I thought about that episode. Shall we go for some scores, gentlemen?
Yeah. I mean, I understand what the episode was trying to do.
Yeah.
And my response when I watched it was that I felt I needed to see it again, but not because I hadn't understood it, but because I needed to absorb it again. So it's actually a story I've rewatched quite a bit. I do like the little journey it takes us on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Clara bit.
Yeah. It
is, rough and smooth and spit out the lumps, which is something we just have to get used to with this year's episodes. I think I come out overall with a B for listening.
I will come out with a B plus because I enjoyed it, but the Clara thing really took the edge off it. So, how about you, Golden?
A plus for me.
Nice. You're along with Matthew Panda, who's just giving it A plus, underrated classic. Sadako, however, is on the D minus side. Now, where are we on? Where's your going to stand on this one,
I'd probably give it maybe a C. I don't think it deserves to be completely trashed because there are some really frightening moments like Danny Pink's descendant in the future. As I said, if that had been the story, that would be an all-time classic.
Oh,
But
yeah.
as I said, there's a lot of boring bits, a lot of going around, and I don't like
we are four Capaldi stories in.
So it's C.
And
C for me.
The panel has been at least 2 scores of variants on every single one so far.
Yeah, it shows you. Shows you what
how different that is to what we were saying on Series 7.
Yeah.
Where we were overwhelmingly giving, having consensus amongst the panel.
Yes, it's
very it is interesting what we're discovering talking about this.
Yes, absolutely.
And we have been talking, haven't we?
We have.
We've been taking quite some time, which we might heist if we don't.
Here we go. He manages to get time heist into it. Brilliant.
Cards on the table. I like this one.
No, well, there you go. There you go.
No, I just go straight out. I can say this one I felt was one of the best Capaldi episodes. So I definitely like this one. Not saying it's perfect. We'll discover its imperfections soon enough.
Absolutely. So,
but it's got an intriguing setup.
Yes.
To start with, the TARDIS phone rings in Clara's apartment. And Doctor and Clara find themselves in a room with no idea how the heck they got there. Along with Sai, an augmented human, and Sabra, who is a human mutant. And they do discover one thing. They have been recruited by the Architect to rob the Bank of Carabraxos, which is basically, Fort Knox of the universe.
Yep.
So, they've been put together to do a heist. Hence, the episode title, Time Heist. And so they set about doing just that. And until they see this weird alien thing with eyes on stalks, which is such an powerful psychic that it can literally melt your brain out of your head just by looking at you. Yep. And there's somebody being dodgy in the bank who gets his brain concaved in by the glare of the teller.
The Teller. What a great name.
So then, in the process of carrying out the heist, they're trying to get to where they've got to get to the vault, and the Teller is stalking them, and both Sabra and Sai soon also meet what appears to be a deadly fate. But the Doctor and Clara succeed and penetrate the vault. But what they discover is that instead of being dead, Sai and Sabra are teleported away. But the Teller is actually who the Doctor's been working for. The Teller is the Architect. The Teller wants the Doctor to set him free and to set him back up with his girlfriend because they got nicked by the bank's director, Madame Carabraxos herself, in order to take advantage of his extraordinarily dangerous psychic powers. So the Doctor sets the 2 aliens free and they leave happily. Mission accomplished.
There you go.
This story is well paced. It's well directed. It challenges your thinking. It plays with it plays with the timeline. So that you've got to kind of try and stay ahead to keep up with what's going on. So it doesn't insult you or the audience by just being some dull popcorn fare. The Teller is a really interesting character. The resolution is great. And the whole memory worm thing and everything else. There were Moffat's writing is smattered in amongst Gareth Thompson's. That's because he shared the script credit. So we know that Moffat looked over that's a bit Moffaty. But this was just great. This was just a great episode. This was a great week of Doctor Who. I absolutely loved it.
Well, there you go. So we'll go Burringeau. What do you think about this?
Well, yeah, to be honest, I kind of agree with John the White. I think this is a good Peter Capaldi episode. And, I mean, it's not an all-time classic. To be honest, again, I think this is kind of a step in the right direction. Like, because it's more of a sci-fi story set on another planet. And, you know, it's probably a better attempt at doing a light parter than the Robin Hood one, in all fairness, because it's not so silly, but there's a bit more good comedy moments in it. Only thing I will say about it that I don't like, I think in this episode, is that they were still writing for Matt Smith a bit. When you watch it back, there's some moments where Peter Capaldi is just playing Matt Smith, like when he waves his hands around, when he's clearly into Clara, you know, going on about like, haha, Danny Pink, try and beat that for a date, and when he's making awkward little jokes, it's like about the Leaning Tower of Pizza or whatever. It's like that's very, you know, Matt Smith stuff. So I think, but to be fair, you do sometimes get that when you're just starting out with a new Doctor. So overall, I'd say it's a good one. Also, there's quite a nice little shout out. I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but do you remember Absalom Dak?
Yes.
Yeah.
There is an Absalom Dak shout out.
Yeah. He appears. I mean, I've all all this crap about spin-offs. What they should have made a Romana spin-off show and an Absalom Dak spin-off show. Got the guy with, you know, what was it, laser chainsaws that would cut through Daleks. That would have been absolutely brilliant. Or even just a supporting
I remember Ace meeting up with and fighting alongside Absalom.
Yeah,
Adventures book. I believe it was called Descent.
Maybe if they'd had Journey Blue in it, they could have had, as the companion, they could have had Absalom Dak be her old boyfriend or something. That would have been quite a cool way to bring him in. But either way, I'm glad that they gave him a shout out in this. And yeah, overall, it's a good episode. Not an all-time classic, but, you know, a decent enough story, I'd say.
Fair enough.
Do you agree with that, Golden Age Geek?
I can't particularly find any faults with this episode, and to Burringer's point, there is also another reference to another Whoniverse character. I don't know if you've seen Torchwood, but James Masters, who played Spike in Buffy, he actually played a character in season 2 of Torchwood, and you actually get to see him when
Captain something, wasn't it? Captain Hart.
Captain John Hart, yeah, that's right. I forgot. You see him holding his 2 guns alongside the criminals. Are there any other ones, actually, just while we're here, that you guys remember? Because they probably stuck in more wee references. I think there's a Draconian or something you see as well.
I'm not sure.
Is a New Who properly? As long as it weren't done like the
Sorry. Carry on, Golden Age Geek. Sorry.
But in terms of the episode, I like what is supposed to be the villain, but it's kind of a misunderstood character. He's actually more of a hostage. When it comes to the sort of main antagonist, when it's revealed, Keely Hawes' character, and can I say, like, Keely Hawes is such a phenomenal actress, and I feel like she could have had a much bigger role. I feel like I would have wanted her to have a bit more of play more of a character that had more of an overall impact on the series, but she ain't wasted here, I don't think, by any means. The sort of twist at the end that it was actually the Doctor who sent them on this big chase, I kind of think that comes off as a bit of a cop out a little bit. It may make sense for the story, but it's one of those things where they build up the suspense, and then once again it's the Doctor, and then they'll have another one. Oh, it was the Doctor all along. And, you know, at this point, do we really expect it to be anyone else? I mean, but when it comes to the Doctor and Clara freeing the creature, to see him reunite with his race, and we see that beautiful landscape behind them, that is just a beautiful scene. I do like that. Yeah, that's about it. There's nothing really overly great about it, in my opinion, but it ain't bad by any means. So when we get to our rankings, it may seem like I'm ranking it like quite low, but what I'm actually doing is just kind of putting it in the middle, where it's not too great, but it's not bad either. It's just sort of, it exists. Yeah,
there you go. Awesome.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's fair because it's an okay episode. It's enjoyable. You know,
well, I mean, I was just saying the first 4 stories we've had this diverse range of opinion, and now we've got a story we see. I reckon we're going to be coming in closer on. Yeah, and that's good, you know, because I think the script is worth it.
Yeah, it is.
I think it was a Doctor Who story with some ambition. I think it set out with the direction and the pacing to emulate a Hollywood heist movie with a Doctor Who sci-fi twist. I think it achieved that really well. And I think the teller, especially the first time you see him, when you see what he does to the guy's brain, that's pretty damn scary.
Yeah, that's
You know, that's just very effective.
Yes, very.
But then to make the audience scared of the teller, but then to make them sympathetic to the teller at the end, that's an audience journey.
Yes, it is. Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
And to get that in a 45-minute episode and for the whole thing to work and for it not to suck, yeah, I'm quite impressed.
Yeah.
I'm quite impressed. However, I'm not so impressed as to give it an A.
Fair enough.
Because I don't think it has that exemplariness to put it over the top. I think Golden Age Geek is right about that. But I would say I'm not generally. I don't mark my episodes in relation to other episodes in the season. I do mark them on their own merits.
Right.
So B+.
And I will give it a dead straight B. It's enjoyable, but nothing. It's not up in that upper echelon. But it's a good one. It's a good one. So I'll give it a B. How about you, Golden Age Geek?
B-.
Yes. And Burrenjaw?
B+ as well.
Yay!
Yay!
We all really like this one.
We're resonating in positive love for this episode.
We found one we liked. We found one we all liked.
Oh, that's it. We'll come back next week. No, but
leave it a high.
Look, it doesn't matter how you approach these things. Sometimes it's difficult to look after everything. And what you really need is a caretaker.
No, he's done it again.
Oh,
no,
God.
Yeah, he's on fire, isn't he? He's on fire.
I wasn't saying, oh, God, at your joke. I was saying, oh, God, at this episode.
I was trying to leave that a little bit later. Yeah, it's not good.
An initial observation about this story. It's written by Gareth Roberts.
And
to date, this has been Gareth's last script for the show.
The unspeakable one.
But I speak him because I'd love to see Gareth return to write Doctor Who. I'd love him to do a story where he could really bring his Chelonians to life. And when I think about the stories that Gareth had, he started off with an absolutely gobsmacking episode. He was given a season opener. No, not a season opener, but he was given the second episode of the season. So in many ways, the more important one because it's the one that has to keep you watching.
Yes.
The Shakespeare Code, and it looked fantastic. It really was $1 million episode. Then he had the Unicorn and the Wasp, which also looked really good in terms of its production values. And was also by no means a cheap episode. That period stuff costs, you know. And then we had a double dose of James Corden, and then we get this. So I think Gareth seems to have been a bit cursed in that he was obviously given the cheaper budgets. Can you do us a cheap one?
Yeah.
And I personally feel he deserved a bit better than that.
Yeah, fair enough.
So that's just something I'd like to put at the top of the story, so to speak.
Fair enough.
But after the exoticness of a bank of Catabraxos, we are literally dragged right back to Earth. We're dragged back to Coal Hill School, and we're in a day in the life of Clara trying to have some kind of relationship with Danny, and Danny banging his head against the desk and stuff, And but the Doctor is also hanging around because he's detected something going on, and there's an alien death machine called a Scovox Blister, which the Doctor is planning to deal with because he's on Earth, but he's going to zap it billions of years into the future where it can't do any harm to anyone. However, Danny gets involved because he doesn't know what the hell Clara is doing and blunders into it all. And instead, the death machine is only sent 74 hours into the future. And, The Doctor learns that Danny's going out with that Danny's the one that Clara's going out with because he thinks it's another guy who looks a bit like his 11th incarnation. Didn't quite know what message Moffat was trying to put there.
No.
And because he also had Moffat polished his script as well. Moffat's fingerprints are on it. And Danny learns that Clara's living a double life, which is about the right point in the series arc where he needs to find out that she's been lying through his teeth to him. The Doctor doesn't like Danny because he thinks that soldiers are beneath something. Doesn't mean soldiers are good enough for Clara. All a bit unclear and a bit messy. But then the machine reappears and it works out, and Danny does a fantastic backflip, and bye-bye. Phew, alien threat averted. Next week.
Yeah. There you go. Mm.
The episode's not helping itself, is it?
No, really isn't.
No,
really, really not.
Golden Age Geek, do you want to open up on this one?
I have.
That literally sounded like you just opened fire.
Yeah. It's how you point around out
there. What was that? A grenade launcher?
I've done this twice. What I've done is I've gone to tap my mic to turn it on, and I've pushed it onto my monitor, and it just whacks it. So I may not have a monitor by the end of this stream. But...
Move your mic.
Golden Age Geek's bringing the artillery to this opinion.
Boom! What the hell? Okay,
when we're done, I'm gonna have to play that back and just see what that sounded like.
It literally sounded like you had opened up with a 105mm howitzer. It's just brilliant. Boom! Okay.
Well, I just said, fire it, bang,
That was brilliant. Perfect timing. Carry on, mate.
I can appreciate this episode for what it was trying to do. I see it as a bit of dumb fun, but I do see a time prophet there. He says, I always knew he had a large mic.
It does seem a bit of a backward compliment to me.
Yes, I'd be flattered.
I like the size of your mic, young geek.
That's the sort of Eddie Richie would say. Now, Eddie, have you got the crackers? Oh no!
There's another burn in the comments, everybody. This seems like a Sarah Jane Adventures script.
Oh, ouch! Ouch!
After Gareth Roberts supplied multiple scripts too.
I love the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yes, so it's almost, could it be like he dug a Sarah's Jane Adventures script out the drawer? Well, he couldn't have done that. He's too professional.
Okay.
I refuse to believe it.
Golden Age Geek, so before we got distracted onto the dick jokes, again,
yeah. I was trying to bring us back on track, boys. I was trying.
Sorry. No, I was just saying that because I was the one that interrupted.
This episode, I think, is
I love Doctor Who panel and unfeasibly large microphones.
God.
So this episode, I think, as I say, it's a bit of dumb fun. I do appreciate what they were trying to do. It's never explicitly said, but I think the reason why the Doctor is so skeptical of Clara being with Danny Pink is because Danny Pink was a soldier, and looking at it from the Doctor's perspective, when he himself has become a soldier, he basically caused bloody genocide of his entire race. So he does have a negative perception of soldiers because of what he himself did.
Hang on, no.
Oh.
Because Capaldi's Doctor knows that he didn't commit genocide on Gallifrey.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, there is that.
Oh
God.
So I have to say that cannot be right as a reason why
he may have still carried out other. So saying he may have carried out other atrocities before he saved Gallifrey.
He was involved because he was the war doctor. He did have to actually fight using weapons.
Blown up Scarrow and got a good night's sleep afterwards. I don't see why he'd suddenly be troubled.
That was just Alex.
Yeah, that's all right. That is.
He blew up the cyber fleet and got a damn good sleep afterwards.
Yeah,
twice. I don't see why, etc.
But It's just the way I've interpreted it. The way I think is that the reason he's so skeptical of Danny Pink is because he's actually skeptical of himself. So he's actually projecting his own feelings onto Danny Pink because because the Doctor is a pacifist, and he always kind of the Doctor as we know him has always been a pacifist. So the idea of her.
Sorry, I need to interrupt you just for a moment. I have an alternative suggestion. Could it be that Stephen Moffat is a bit of a middle class snob who doesn't like soldiers?
Yes.
That's a feasible possibility as well.
I think we discussed that before with the whole most of the new Who writers when Unit's in the stories, they always kind of portray them as being like silly boys with guns sort of thing.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So annoying.
Yeah, it always is. But yes, carry on. Any case, Golden Age.
And we observed ourselves only last week that the unit tactical training was clearly lacking.
There is no tactical training.
So, I mean, if Moffat was judging them on unit soldiers, we could understand the disrespect. Is that it?
I mean, the thing is, let's be brutally honest. In this one, the unit soldiers are the red shirt security officers from Star Trek. They're just sent to be slaughtered mercilessly for no real reason.
Even red shirts make a bit of a game of go of it.
Well, not normally. They normally go, what? And they're gone.
That's a
New Who unit sucks, but I warn you all, if any of you have anything horrid to say about Osgood, you can just about bloody well speak to me first. I'll give you all a bloody good punch in the body.
Right, then, we line up. Who wants to say anything about Osgood and get punched in the bollocks? Third jurors offering to hand them out right now. There doesn't seem to be a lot of takers. I can't imagine why.
Meanwhile, Golden Age Geek is trying to tell us something.
Sorry.
Carry on, sir. He's being careful with his mic now, not to smash his monitor.
Yeah, I was just playing it back. I wanted to see what it sounded like. But, so yeah, that's what my observations of the episode have been. I've always viewed it as the Doctor just projecting himself onto Danny.
Yeah, I can see where you're
so
coming
that's always how I mean, yeah, there obviously is, as I say, it's not stated, it's just my interpretation of it, but everyone has their own viewpoint on that, but that's always how I've sort of viewed it, because we do see Danny at the end of the season sort of come to terms with some of the things he had to do, and so the Doctor would have obviously realized that he would have had to do some stuff that maybe he isn't proud of. So I think it's the idea of the Doctor not thinking that Clara's safe with him, so he's looking at someone who's kind of a mirror to himself, and that's why he's a little bit skeptical.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from. I can see where you're coming from on that.
Oh, of course, we still have to remember the cop who got killed in this ended up meeting, that mysterious woman.
Well, it was a community.
Little bits of that are going through all this series as well.
Yeah. But remember, it's only a community support officer. They're not real police, They're just like there to collect stuff and put tickets on things. So there's no love lost there for community support officers. I'm going to get myself into trouble for that now.
I remember watching the Next Time trailer for this episode, and that one particular teacher that Clara speaks with a few times, who, he wears a bow tie and he's supposed to represent Matt Smith. I actually thought that was Matt Smith the first time I watched the Next Time trailer.
Well, yeah.
He does. He does.
Just shows what Ryan can do.
It's true. It does look like him, though. I think that's the whole idea, isn't it?
I want to zone in on what Matt Pounder has said. The alien was stupid, total cringe. And look, I think the problem is when you introduce the Ultimate Death Machine and then you defeat it fairly easily in the same episode, it's got no credibility. It's as simple as that. This isn't rocket science. It's basic storytelling.
I
think what this needed, at the least, was maybe some little CGI sequence of an army of these blitzers beating Daleks. Something that would enable us to take them seriously as a threat, and how if even one of them was free on Earth, it would spell disaster. I mean, perhaps then these blitzers could have actually become something real. The show could have done something with. But as it is, it's just if you produce an idea just to throw it away, you show the idea didn't have value in the first place. That's the problem with a 45-minute resolved story. It's been a problem a lot of times for New Who. It's definitely a problem in this one. But I'm going to hand over for a minute, lads. So I'm on mute for a couple of minutes.
Well, go on then, Borinjoy. You might as well give us your opinion on this.
Well, I'm sorry to say, I think this is the first real stinker of this series. It won't be the last. Oh, no. But it's the first real stinker. Again, I agree with John that I like Gareth Roberts generally as a writer. I liked his first 4 stories a lot, with the Shakespeare Code and Planet of the Dead both being really good. And I even like Roger, that despite Corden, like I think Matt Smith really carries that one. But this one, oh God, it's such bollocks. In fact, I go as far as to say that this one is everything I dislike about New Who, at least up until this point, combined.
Yeah, that's right. Wait till next week.
Wait till next week, because, well, no, I don't mean that it's the worst New Who story until this point.
You mean.
Yeah, just that it represents what's wrong with New Who, and that, like, the sci-fi element is just nothing. I mean, it's not even like, oh, that it's so bad. It's nothing. It's just a robot. Like, it's the most generic idea. Its design doesn't have anything. It's like a fucking Robot Wars robot that would
they actually work. I mean, Robot Wars do damage. These
I love Robot Wars. What I meant was it's like the crap ones that get ripped up by like Sir Kill-a-Lot in the first round or something, roasted over something, then thrown in the pit.
Yeah.
The rest of it is just a complete soap opera. I mean, this is why I say, like, I don't think the Robin Hood one's as bad as, like, say, this one, because at least there's an adventure, whereas this one, it's just, and it's so annoying, because as I said, Peter Capaldi should have been getting us away from that. It should have been getting us away from the Russell T Davies soap opera EastEnders with a TARDIS crap, but this one dives arguably into it even more. But again, I'm sorry to say, I think this was also part, not even so much for the pandering to SJWs, but Russell T Davies brought a very different audience to Doctor Who. People that cared more about soap opera and bullshit. Because I remember during Matt Smith's last year, all these fans kept bitching, saying, oh, we're not seeing enough of the companion's home life. We don't know what she does for a living. And I was thinking, what? This is a show about a guy that can travel to any planet at any point in its history. And you want to see about stuff about someone's fucking domestic home life. Absolutely. And so clearly that's also what the big boring bits in Listen were. It was all an attempt to pander to that, and I thought it was terrible then. I think it's terrible now. And to us, this episode, it's just boring. I mean, it's just a crappy soap opera with a third-rate robot tossed in at the end, and also the Doctor being a dick to Danny because he's a soldier. I'm sorry, Golden Age Geek, I agree with John the White. In the end of the day, there's no reason he should feel that way, because his best friends have been soldiers in the past, and also he's not naive. He should know that, soldiers aren't bad inherently. It all just depends on the type of soldier. So, sorry, I thought I made him look like an immature prick.
I get that. The thing is, I mean, you have to go back to classic Who. I mean, the Brigadier and, that the older units, he spent a lot of time working with those, so he knows what soldiers are. It's a difficult one.
The Brigadier went behind his back and killed the Silurians. So the third Doctor always had a little bit of a distrust of exactly what unit would do if he let them off the leash. So there and I think it's telling. It never happens in any of the future unit stories.
It depends on the soldier, really.
For Doctor in that one, but for him to have a grudge, by the time we get to the caretaker about that,
Plus, when Trenzalore, he saw lots of good people, lots of good soldiers do lots of things in Trenzalore. You'd think that would have shaped his outlook a bit. Whereas it seemed this was so fucking annoying with Stephen Moffat. Like, he did this whole thing where the Doctor was there for 1,000 years, and it has no impact on his character whatsoever.
whatsoever.
And who do you think is on the front line against the Daleks and the Cybermen and the Sontarans?
Exactly. They must have been
You
good
know,
soldiers.
There's human muggins having to do their best in every time zone, aren't there?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So look, I don't think the show should ever glorify the military. That's obviously
No.
not. But I definitely think this series struggled to show a balance, and I think it almost kind of managed to get there by giving Danny's character this guilt by the end, and I don't. But even then, it was kind of implying the Doctor knew there was something wrong about him. I don't like it. No, I don't like it.
I will say, sorry, it's another thing about this. I think that in this series, Stephen Moffat, having cast a sort of middle-aged Scots guy, was kind of making the Doctor into his avatar figure that represented him. And I think that leads to some bad things. Like there's a romance with the Peter Capaldi Doctor and Clara, like hints that she likes him when she says, "Oh, his accent is, enough to set the mood in a romantic night." So it's like, it just, and that's at the forefront here. That's really, I think, meant to be why he's jealous of Danny and why he wants her to still fancy a Matt Smith guy, so it's like, no, I think that, like, I agree with what a lot of you guys are saying. Stephen Moffat's projecting too much of himself into the show and the character.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, could we say that it's actually not the fact that Danny was a soldier that's the problem? It's the fact that the Doctor's actually jealous.
Which is pathetic.
It's don't get me wrong, it's pathetic.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It is pathetic.
But if you go down the line of the Matt Smith looking Doctor and this, that, and the other, and the episodes, where like Robin LeShaw, where he's, my dick's bigger than your dick and I'm better than you, and all this sorts, you get this feeling that the Doctor's jealous, and that's not the Doctor. Just thinking about it, just throwing that out there.
We also get another character set up in this, who appears in the following story. Courtney.
Oh,
Courtney
yes.
And her detentions.
Yes.
And how the Doctor tried to show her the wonders of the solar system when she was sick.
Indeed.
What do we make of that character?
Nothing really. I don't get why everyone hated her so much. She was just kind of nothing really for me.
No, she was just there. I don't, it was plot point. That's all I see her as.
We're not going to discuss it this week, but in the Forest of the Night, Danny and Clara are taking this expedition of kids for a sleepover at museum, and they wake up next day in the Discovery Forest. But the point is, those are the special and talented group.
Yeah.
Brackets, special, brackets, talented. In other words, they're the problem kids.
Yeah.
What you might think of as the urban kids. The ones who are disadvantaged and aren't doing very well. And Courtney is entirely that kind of character.
Yeah.
So I think the show was trying to tap into a kind of rebel youth vibe. Maybe
not a good idea.
I don't quite know how best to describe it, but I mean, you get what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it worked. I just don't think it worked terribly well.
No, it doesn't work well.
But it did make Courtney more entertaining than if she was straight a yes sir, no sir grade student. So I actually enjoyed the little bit of grit that dynamic represented. It's just that to have a companion, which she travelled in the TARDIS at 2 episodes, she counts as a companion.
Oh, yes, she does count as a
she?
companion. Yeah, she does.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always the criteria. If you travel in the TARDIS, you count as a companion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of companions that don't get talked about. But, I mean, I think she was given a reasonably important role in the stories in the centre of the season. And, I found the character entertaining.
Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything against her whatsoever.
No,
yeah, I mean, we should become a characters there. I thought we should mention it's fair, because she is, concerned for her as part of this plot, because it's part of what drives Danny to stick his nose in the first time round, as he thinks that Court is in some sort of trouble because of the Doctor.
Yeah.
So right. We are at just over 2 hours mark. I think we can get one more in, boys.
Yes, we can. Should we get the
So
scores?
we're going to stretch. We'll do the scores for this one first. I'm coming in with a C-.
I will come in with a D+. Nah, I didn't really enjoy this one. Golden Age Geek?
B-.
Oh, fair enough.
Ooh, I wasn't expecting that.
And Burrenjaw?
E.
Wow, you really didn't like this one.
No, everything wrong with New Who. More soap opera than sci-fi. That's what it.
Yeah,
not
fair
good.
enough.
Well, if you're going to try and put a human relationship into the middle of a Doctor Who season, you're going to have a story something like this, and that's just the nature of what they decided to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be saying the relationship wasn't convincing.
I disagree. I think you can show the relationship develop while we're traveling through time and space. I don't think you need to do domestics at all. But that logic, you can never do any kind of romance in a sci-fi story.
Who agree to travel in time and space, but overwhelmingly he isn't.
Yeah, but they should have made him. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that's the point, isn't it? He's a non-companion companion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But I still think soap opera's got a place in Doctor Who. Just to be clear, though, I'm not saying that I don't think soap opera has a place in sci-fi and fantasy. Like Buffy is a fantasy soap opera and it's brilliant, but it's just the nature of Doctor Who, the type of character is. I don't think it's a good fit for Doctor Who.
I think the reality is it's got to be handled very carefully.
Yes.
And
yes.
It can go wrong. And I think with regards to trying to give Clara any kind of credible Earth life, it all went wrong.
Yeah.
Simplicity is key. When you look at Rose's life, Martha's life, Donna's life, they were all presented with convincing families, but they were also quite simple situations.
Yeah. I think we saw too much of their families too. If I'm honest,
they might be true, but I mean, they were all able to effectively do that. And Donna's mum had her role. Donna's granddad had his role. Martha's family was a bit less developed, but I think they'd have been more developed if Martha had stuck around more.
The one that I liked the most actually was Rose's mum, but that's only because I've actually met her in real life at a convention, and she is
really is a wonderful woman.
Oh, she's so lovely. She's so cute. She's so friendly. I mean, she is. I wanted to marry her after meeting her. That's how wonderful she is. So yeah, I like Rose's mum. I'd like to get to know her in real life, but other than that, I think.
Well, if she was Jackie Tyler, she might be pleased to hear it, but I don't know about.
Oh yeah.
Her own arrangements, yeah.
If I'd have been, what's his name, the guy from that shit Loving Monsters, I'd have been in there like, oh yes, but other than that, nah.
Well, pass up the chance he ends up with a paving slab. There's a moral there somewhere.
God,
somewhere.
Actually, God, I can't believe he actually put that in an episode of Blowjob Stone. God.
Yeah.
Sorry, let's not get back onto this. Let's just.
I'm not only that, but it got Myrtle Myrtle to do the deed. Potter fans were traumatized.
Yes.
Have we done everyone's scores for Caretaker?
Yeah, we did.
Right, okay. Thank good for that. No, I mean, because just when you thought, oh yes, what a one to end on. Just when you thought we've done it all, it's time to set out to kill the moon.
Oh God.
Oh God.
Do we end now, John? Do we end now? Do we have to do it now, John?
Oh no, not this one.
Oh God! I actually to go to the toilet for a second.
No, I'll see you next week then, Burrenjaw, yeah?
Yeah, I'll be back in a minute. No, I won't I won't do as big a turd as the one the writer of this story did. But
I was gonna say,
Well, while Bojaw makes himself more comfortable, I'll establish the scene.
crack on.
So the Doctor takes Clara and Courtney on a trip.
Yay!
Let's go see the future. So they jump forward to the year 2049 and materialise on board a space shuttle headed to the moon.
Yes. Bit of
With a
an issue
somewhat
with the
mysterious cargo that alarms the Doctor somewhat of 100 nuclear bombs.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dodgy cargo, shall we say? Bit of a dodgy
So
cargo.
there's an initial sort of competence as the astronauts try to work out how the hell these two weirdos and a kid ended up on their space shuttle because they weren't there on blastoff.
No.
But then there's no time to do anything about it because time is mission critical and they are landing. And the Captain Lundvik, leads her team of astronauts, and he's told that they're on a mission to blow up the moon, which again causes eyebrows to raise.
Of course.
Because sudden massive shifts in gravity are causing enormous tidal waves that threaten to destroy life on the surface of the Earth.
Mm.
Well, the Doctor, loves a good crisis, and it certainly isn't going to take time to take Courtney home, and realises that there's a whole bunch of miners who appear to have been attacked by some sort of creatures. And then it's discovered that there are spider-like creatures everywhere, and that they're hatching in incredible numbers. And that it's this which is causing the moon's gravity to lurch alarmingly. And finally, just as you think it can't get any more weird, the Doctor determines that these creatures they're finding are just the antibodies of a vast creature, and that actually the entire moon is a living creature. He then says, well, this was not in my job description, I'm off, you sort it out.
Yep.
Because apparently a decision on whether to blow up or not to blow up the moon is a bigger decision that the Doctor's prepared to take for them, and that the human race is just going to have to work this one out on their own because it's not his role to interfere when it's this important. Okay. So then Clara comes up with his idea of sending a message to the Earth and saying, if you think we should not blow up the moon, turn out your lights. Yep. And then all the lights across the planet go out because somehow the human race decided that not blowing up something was better, which really doesn't seem typical for the human race to me.
Yeah, not very logical.
But nevertheless, we suspend our disbelief and they decide not to blow up the moon. Then they return to the Earth and look up and they see the moon turn into a giant creature which flies away, but at the same time, it also lays an egg, which is a new moon.
How convenient.
Sorry, John, you're misremembering a bit that with the moon. No, I say it's with the moon. It's even more stupid. It's the Earth does vote to blow it up, but Clara, on a last minute decision, decides not to.
Oh,
yes,
right.
Yes.
Yeah. I forgot that bit. Yeah, she doesn't just do what they say. She does the opposite because, fuck you.
She's the smartest person in the whole world.
I didn't like your answer. So frankly, your democracy sucks. I'm Clara, the great moon dictator.
I remember when this episode aired, Moffat came out and said that the main message of this episode was supposed to be an anti-abortion one. So I don't know why everyone thinks of that.
What?
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How? Oh, no. No, that makes it even worse.
If the picture's hatching, it's not abortion, it's infanticide.
I'm just relaying what Moffat said.
I know you are, but Jesus God, that makes this even worse. Oh my dear
God.
Lord! Oh no! Wow, really?
I suppose it shows in modern society that's what you have to do to disguise an anti-abortion message. Because for heaven's sake, anyone should say that industrial child slaughter is a bad thing. Or maybe we'd be better off if we let some of the people we make actually come into existence. I don't know.
Oh well, if it was, he hid it really, really well because
He did it way too well. Because I've never looked at an episode and thought, oh, that's an anti-abortion message. That is.
unless of course it really wasn't, and he just jumped on the nearest bandwagon. I don't know.
So I'll take Boomerang's correction on board. Clara asked the human race to do the right thing. They turn out to be a bunch of dicks, so she does what she thinks is the right thing anyway.
So there was no point in asking the question in the first
Well, it was
place.
lucky, but it did actually turn out to be the right thing.
Well,
in the context of if you believe
Yeah.
this whole creature laying an egg exactly the same size and appearance as the new. Here's what I think, right? I think that for 75% of this story, it's absolutely great.
Really?
I think the tension, I think the mystery, all of that is great. It's only when it gets to the explanation it goes to shit.
Yeah, I'd say the first half. The first half with all the tension.
Maybe I was a bit generous with 75%. Maybe 60%.
Definitely. The first half is really. It is quite good. The tension and everything. It is, and then it just.
If you could have found another explanation for the shifts in gravity and mysterious creatures appearing, that would have been better.
Yes, it would have.
So there's certainly germs of great story. And I also want to say that going to Lanzarote to film this, it looks extraordinary.
Oh, it's a lovely place, Lanzarote. It really is a beautiful, beautiful place.
Well, you wouldn't really think of a blasted hot place as a place to do the moon, but
it
works really well. It works really well in these night shoots and these really mysterious, unearthly looking rocks. And did they have to go to Lanzarote to do that? Well, maybe not, but I bet it was nice.
Oh well, it was a nice, wasn't it?
Sorry about the budget for your episode, Gareth.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's very nice of you. But I mean, really, it's that much of a swing. It's only when the story starts to try to resolve itself that it all falls apart. And then I'm just like, I remember watching this for the first night it went out, and my brain just like going, what? What?
Yes.
And I tell you what, it's the first time New Who had been that bad. Well, think about all the episodes we talked about, from Rose to Kill the Moon. The journey we've taken so far, I can't think of another episode we've come across where the actual resolution of the story broke the audience out of the suspension of disbelief necessary to follow the story, like this one did. Unfortunately, it's not the only time it happened. Fortunately, most of the times we will not be talking about, because we're not talking about the children era.
No, we're not touching that. No.
But this was a low point, and we couldn't have believed at the time how much worse it was going to go. But something seemed to have broken about the rules of a consistent, logical story with this story.
Yeah.
So suddenly it seemed like that didn't matter, and it was concerning, and the episode was, I think, for a lot of people, ruined by that, to be honest.
Yeah, it didn't get well. No.
But let's know what you guys think. Maybe I'm completely talking down the masterpiece. Golden Age Geek, if anyone's going to say that, it's going to be you.
I do agree that the first half of the episode is, okay. It's not great, but then the end of it does kind of fall apart, and it does kind of link into a wider criticism I do have, is that when the Doctor gives the excuse that he had to leave because he wants to give humanity the chance to decide their own future, it kind of reminds me of a criticism I do have with Star Trek, how in some episodes they'll say, well, the Prime Directive says that we should not interfere, but then every other episode they majorly interfere.
All the time.
And it's a bit like, with the Doctor, he says, I'm going to leave humanity to decide, but then in every other episode, he's the one who acts as a catalyst for the change, or, just straight up just goes in and helps people without, anyone say so. So the explanation is very weak, and I don't know how you feel about the whole argument scene between Clara and the Doctor in the TARDIS, but whatever people may think of it, I think it was very well done in the sense that it felt like an actual argument was happening, and it did feel like, oh god, this is pretty serious here. So yeah, I like that, but that's the only praise I can give this episode, to be quite honest.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh dear. Bonjour.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, I think this one's absolute horse shit. Like, I don't think there's anything good about it. To start with, I actually think Peter Capaldi's pretty annoying in this one, because it's not necessarily his fault, because they write the Doctor in such a ridiculous way, but I think he overdoes the trying to be so alien and angry, oh Clara, it gets really annoying.
That was quite good. That was quite good.
Yeah, Clara! And on top of that, this really pisses me off, because again, it's a classic example of why people hated Clara, where she had to be the most important person of all time. And this is probably the worst example, actually. She's right when everyone else on Earth
the planet is wrong. Yeah.
She's the greatest person in the whole world. Also, the idea is fucking stupid. I mean, it's actually laughable when you think about it. To start with, like,
I remember, like, I was going, what happened to quality control?
I know, exactly. But
I would think that even more so by the time Forest of the Night aired.
Oh yeah, definitely. But that's the point when you think about this. Like, the moon, when the moon breaks up, that should be it. The ocean should go, and they fucking film it next to a beach, next to water, and you don't even see waves. And then on top of that, how the fuck did this thing lay an egg that was bigger than its entire body, which it would have to have been? The egg has to contain it, in exactly the same position that the old moon was.
In a moment, it was suddenly there.
I know. It must have pushed that. That's like a woman
suddenly
trying to push
out a moon-sized shite. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, that's like a woman pushing an automobile out of her vagina. She must have been fucking sore in the morning, that dragon. That's all I can say. Also, does it not mean also
you wouldn't accept science fiction that half-baked out of an 11-year-old?
No, you would not. You would not. It's so bad. As I said, it's like they're taunting you by filming it on a beach. They could have filmed it on like a mountain, but they actually go to a fucking beach to film it and don't even have there be like anything, not even a teeny wee bit of water that, rises up because like the moon's gone. No, it's just fine. And as I said, it's able to lay an egg bigger than its whole body. It's just within a matter of seconds. No wonder that happens off screen, because how the fuck could you show that happening?
Well, just out of curiosity, it was born pregnant.
Exactly. Yeah.
How are you born pregnant?
Oh,
very. No. No. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Also, does this mean every moon? Is every moon then in the universe a dragon egg? I mean, and what reason does that thing have? What is it laid all these dragon eggs so they'll hatch and the dragons will invade? I mean, it's so fucking stupid and badly thought out. So another thing about making Clara the head of, the best person in the universe is that I forgot. The Doctor says that that decision not to kill that dragon is why humanity survives. That one decision is why humanity survives to the year 100 trillion, because it inspires us not to kill things. So yeah, Clara is not.
Can I ask a question? Did anybody ever watch a movie? I mean, like the film, but they turn it off before the last act because it's not the last act that they like. They like the setup or the action in the middle or something. And the ending's a bit naff. Has anyone ever got a film like that but you watch, but you don't watch the end?
I've walked out.
I think this story is quite a bit like that.
To be honest,
I do think the direction is tight, and I think that it builds up well, but it just drops the ball. This could have been a B episode. It could have been if it only went somewhere else from where it went. I don't think the threat had to be a creature the size of the moon. That was
to
ridiculous.
be honest.
You could have had some sort of super creature living in the middle of the moon. that could have caused these disruptions. You know, could have been some kind of giant creature. You've done it in different ways. You know,
To be honest,
but I'm not about to try and fix this story.
I don't think that this. Can I just say, I don't think that this story was even particularly good. I mean, granted, the egg bit takes it into a farce, but it's even before that.
I want to give it credit, but it at least is unwatchable in a setup.
Giant spiders is also a pretty unoriginal idea. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do anything good with it, like Shelob, for instance, but that's the point. You have to do something really interesting because it's such an obvious, unoriginal idea. And I don't think this does. The spiders are fairly generic, and they don't even make sense. I mean, they're a stupid idea. So,
well, how about if this was a plot by the alien giant spiders to steal the moon
and take it where?
I know. Yeah, where would they take it?
I can't answer all the questions, but you know, but at least it would be different because we always get aliens trying to conquer the Earth. What if we get aliens who went, "Oh, the moon's perfect. That's just what we want."
Well, Cybermen sort of like the moon, I guess.
Yeah, well, we don't need to breathe.
Well, yeah,
yeah, exactly. Getting the Ice Warriors isn't Seeds of Death set in the moon.
So to them, it's some prime real estate to put out some solar collectors.
But no, this was just awful.
No, so I don't think you can fix this one.
But we've got the story that we've got, not the story that we might have wanted. And it was a pile.
It really was.
I don't think we can redeem it.
No.
We must never allow ourselves to have such poor standards, but we would accept such poor story development.
Believe it or not, I don't think it's the worst in this series. I mean, it's absolutely awful, but there's far worse to come. Unbelievable as that might be. What shite that was praised by some sections of the fandom. So, yeah, I'd agree. We shouldn't let our standards drop. I'd argue to this extent, but arguably they dropped to an even greater extent.
Yes.
No, I agree. But, I just mean that we can't forgive the story. It's awful failings.
No, we just can't. We just really.
So, to 26 on this live stream, I'm going to say D- because it's slightly more watchable than Robots of Sherwood.
Well, I will give it a D. Mainly because, and that's only because of the first half. Other than that, I mean, it should. But the first half was okay, so I'll give it a D. I'm being generous there. I really am. But there you go. So, what do you think, Golden Age Geek?
Yeah, D-.
Yeah, I think everybody's coming up with a D. And you, Burrenjaw?
E-.
Oh!
He's gone as low as he can go.
Oh, you saved that one up for the last thing.
Just like Doctor Who, I've gone as low as I can go. It's fitting for the story.
Awesome.
Now, let's remember we're here to try and find the good in Doctor Who. So Daco says there was a nice area of moral responsibility explored there. So, Papalaz, the story could have worked better by one simple addition, make it a moon of another planet, not Earth. Yes, but no, but. Because the problem is, if you make it a moon of another planet and then do something as ridiculous as hatch it into a giant space creature, nobody would give a shit.
Exactly.
So, yes, but
that
no.
Means that, yes, but no. Yeah.
Yes, but no. The first half was actually very tense. Yeah,
it was.
The first half was boring. I don't get this, but I mean, fair enough, each to their own. But I thought it was quite dull, if I'm honest. Like,
the whole thing with the moon is kind of like the Statue of Liberty and Angels Take Manhattan, but on a bigger scale.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
An even more stupid scale.
Oh
and
yeah.
Our scores reflect the stupid.
There's a bit where the Doctor talks about he and Clara were having, I think I might misremember it, he and Clara were having dinner in Nazi Germany, which is like, why were you guys having dinner in Nazi Germany?
Why would you?
All the other restaurants were full.
It's like,
of all the world at that time, we had to have it in a Nazi restaurant.
It's like he says that. What's even more weird, it's not meant that's meant to be like a silly moment. He says that in a serious bit, like for why he's not going to interview. He goes, "You didn't ask me to kill Hitler when we were having dinner in Germany," and it's like, what? Like, why are we having dinner in Nazi Germany anyway? What? Like,
Yeah, well, oh dear Lord.
Reminds me of a comment I saw on Twitter in the last few hours, which is, if you aren't as disgusted by the hammer and sickle as you are by the swastika, your education was sadly lacking.
I disagree with that, but that's a whole other issue to talk about now.
Oh, it is. That's a Twitter debate, which we shan't have here.
Yeah,
Because
like
instead,
communism.
we shall look
black book
forward.
of communism is bullshit propaganda, written by a Nazi collaborator, I believe. But again, I'll need to really go into it. But just like that's not to say I like communism, by the way.
I think we need to really not go into it. Let's
right.
I think that's a good call. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
Instead, let's prepare ourselves, because next week we have to take our seats as we join Mummy on the Orient Express. And until then,
yes,
we will see all of you then. Thank you for being with us, chat. I hope you've enjoyed this 2.5 hours of in-depth Capaldi discussion. I'm certainly finding it interesting to actually have a discussion.
Yeah.
We haven't had as fans under the circumstances, so I didn't really think about it, but now we are doing this talking through Capaldi. I definitely think that taking our time is the right approach now. So maybe it will take us 6 weeks to get him done after all, Gobby.
Yeah, it may do. It may do. Who knows?
It may do. But that's all there is for tonight, folks.
Yes, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We're all done. And thank you, John the White, Golden Age Geek, and Bo and Joe for joining us on this one. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, guys. You've been brilliant. Thank you,
the
chat.
Been awesome. And with that, we shall look forward to seeing you next week. Where we start, was it Mummy on the Orient Express?
Yeah.
So this will start with the
Gobby, I may have this reputation as a fierce lion, but chat managed to get round me to get me to sing a silly song.
You sang. We've had everything. We've had.
I must be a bit of a softie who likes to tickle behind the ears after all.
We've had you singing. We've had lots of dick jokes, and of course, we've had Golden Age Geek trying to destroy us with his howitzer. But apart from that, it's been a brilliant chat, gentlemen. It really has. And with that, I shall bring it nicely to a close. Thank you once again, and we will catch you next week.